Hi, welcome to Thursday with the Friend. My name is Lawrence, or Punk with Toys, a punk, but you guys already know that. Today, you can already see that I have a live special guest. It feels like it was forever since I did that interview with Lenny because I did it like 2 weeks before it aired. So I keep thinking, like, damn, that interview was so long ago, and it was really the last one that I did. But here we have B's Battleground, Bobby B. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Listen to that deep ass voice. Just
It might fade out as the night goes on. It all just depends.
we'll see. I mean, do you smoke like
I used
what
to, but I don't anymore. I haven't smoked in 5 years or so.
is that how you got it? I
It happened when I was in the army, I think. So it kind of it appeared then. A
so
long time.
let me fill you guys in on a couple things. So as you can see, this is Thursday with a nemesis. So I'm gonna have to tell that story. I know not everyone knows it. But I kept seeing Bobby's videos and I assumed Bobby was like a 65-year-old that collected toys because of his deep voice. You never saw him. And then I saw you on a toy kind of mood. And I was like, no, I take that back. I saw you, no, you act like you joined a Punk with Toys on Instagram or on Facebook. And I saw Bobby B and I was like, there's no way there's another Bobby B. And I messaged you and I'm like, dude, are you like, and you're like, yeah, that's me. And I'm looking at that picture. And I'm like, because we're not friends yet. I'm like, they're trying to enlarge it as much. And I'm like, dude, that's not like a 60-year-old guy that smokes and drinks vodka every day.
Nope, just me. 31.
So, oh yeah. So how old are you?
31.
Okay, so you are by far the youngest person that I have interviewed yet.
Kind of terrifying.
Um, it's kind of shocking. That's all because of what we are doing. So quickly, let's say hi to the chat. So Richard was here. You guys might not be able to see this. Are you just going? Are you just talking to a pair of hairy arms today? I did have to laugh at that. Daniel, I'm not sure if I've ever seen you here, but welcome.
He's
Got Ray
he's
Tag.
he's in a lot of my videos.
All right.
He's on my Instagram. I can't think what his name is. Shammy.
Oh no, I have no idea.
Demedor.
Okay.
He hates how I talk.
We got Mr. Wonderful, Down South 77, Matthew Matson, the moderator. So if anything gets out of hand, that includes you, Matthew. Don't. He'll have to ban you, and he doesn't want to ban himself either. Johnny Reno is here. David R. DJ 5 Ash. That is how you pronounce it. We got a Bastion, a Black Sue, Big Bacon, who joined us on the stream that you can't see because you have to be not you, but you have to be a channel member from his truck live, which was actually pretty awesome. We have Nolan here, Ted Darklaw from Hella Dope Toys, Newfie 4024, and that's it for right now. But we got 26 people watching, and believe me, they're here for you.
I don't think that's accurate.
You're going to be surprised. You are liked, hence the reason why our rivalry started that you didn't even know about.
I did not. I was so when I work at night, everyone, and I try to watch live streams, and live streams happen when my shift ends and when I go home from work. And when I go home from work, I got a dog, I got a wife, I got a baby. So I got, being pulled different ways. So I kind of leave the live streams playing and I try to listen to what I can. And the night that I found out about our nemesisness, I think I had it playing. It was in the kitchen or something like that. I wasn't watching it. I was eating dinner or something like that. And I think you messaged me. You're like, "Hey, are you still in the stream?" And I was like, "Yeah. What I miss or whatever." And you're like, and then you just went into the whole story. So
all right,
that's how I found out about it.
So you guys are here and 25 people. So let me explain the situation. So I didn't know who Bobby was. We were both doing reviews, and again, when you're doing reviews, when you're building your YouTube channel, and I've specifically talked about how I do actively try and grow the channel, and I'm doing reviews, and they're coming out about the same time. But I was just watching Bobby, and he's getting all these views, but he never shows his face. You don't. I don't know how you do your thumbnail. You don't really do a thumbnail. You just have
I set everything up. I take the picture, and then that's what I use as my
okay.
thumbnail.
So you do take a picture of it for your thumbnail.
Yep.
Because I know it gives you like 3 different options, and I didn't know like you just happen to.
Sometimes it's just my arm in the screen, and it's all kinds of crazy stuff.
So I was talking to my son, and we're sitting downstairs at the kitchen table, and we're just talking about it, and he's like thinking like I don't like you or anything, and I was like, no, I'm like I'm just trying to figure out like how he gets so many views because of how the algorithm works. And I'm like, I'm looking at your captions, I'm looking at your description. I'm like, what is he putting in here? Because I watch so much stuff, and it's like so much of it has to do with the algorithm and keywords. And he's like, he's your nemesis. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I don't even know the guy. I've never talked to him. He's not doing anything that bothers me. I'm just wondering. And he's like, no, he's your nemesis. So it kind of became this running joke. And even when I told him a couple weeks ago that I was going to have you on, he's like, oh, you guys made up. I'm like, we never had a problem, Andrew. there's no problem here. So, that's it. If you want to know why he is my nemesis, but hey, if you you know how everything goes, enemies become friends, friends become enemies. So you already touched on your age, which tells me you were born about when?
91.
91. So I was in high school when you were born. So let's start from an early age here. So 91, you're born. You probably start getting into toys, what, 3, 4, right?
Probably around there. So I have a brother who's several years older than me.
Okay.
And he is, to this day, and as long as I can remember, has always loved WWF, WWE. So that's kind of where I step into the toy world. Minus, the typical kid toys, your fair share of Matchbox and Hot Wheels and stuff like that.
Yeah. But just I stole Hot Wheels. They were so much fun.
Like, every now and then you see a cool one, you're like, I should pick that up, because they're what, like $1 or $2?
Yeah, they're like $1.25, and it's just like the amount of hours you get just running around with a couple cars, creating your own little world. So what was do you mind me asking like what your family life was growing up? You said you had an older brother.
Yeah, I've older brother who's much older and a younger sister who's relatively close in age. And growing up, it was always my sister and me versus my brother at lots of sports. My brother played hockey all the way through college. My sister played hockey all the way through college. I played lacrosse through high school, and then I enlisted. So
how much older is your older brother? Because you say much older.
8 years.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
He had all the cool GI Joes. So we'll see old Christmas pictures and stuff, and you'll see like the not the General. What's the other big command post vehicle?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't.
That picture was handy too. I should have. And I remember as a kid just burying so many O-ring GI Joes in the gardens and flower beds and stuff. And then now where I'm at in life, I'm like, wish I wouldn't have done that. Wish I would not have done that. So.
Oh, I have stories about my Star Wars figures, and I look back going, that was not the Rolling Thunder.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I'd have to go dig out that picture, but I'm pretty
sure. Thank you to my my guy John at Sergeant Red's, the best toy store in Michigan. So I'll just give him a shout out since he did answer a question that we didn't know. All right, so was your family life pretty good growing up then?
Yeah, it was average, I guess, normal. Mom, dad working, I guess. I don't
Mom,
normal
dad,
for me.
Do you have a younger sister? Is she younger?
Yes.
Okay. And you grew up in
Pennsylvania, just outside of probably. So where it starts to become, where the suburbs start to become the middle of nowhere.
Okay. All right. So as you're getting into toys as a kid, you're probably talking what, 3, 4 years old? Hold on. Mr. Wonderful, 5 minutes and he's bringing up wrestling, but leave it to Punk to pivot quick. Hey, listen. We have to move on. We can't talk wrestling the whole time. I mean, we could. So, what toys did you actually play with growing up? Because I would at your age, I mean, isn't that still like prime turtles?
Um, I don't recall myself having Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I actually, the Fisher Price Adventure series, I remember those as a kid, like the Knights and Castles and pirate ships and stuff.
Okay.
I remember those. I remember Mystic Knights of Trinagog. I remember watching that after school with like the four knights that were each were an element, and the bad guy was a skeleton that had like an ice sword.
We're gonna have totally. I mean, man, you're just.
I remember I had a ton of those. I had all of them, but the girl. My sister had the girl. She was like Wind or something like that, and she took it to school and lost her. So that was the first hit to my collecting. I did the wrestlers with my brother, the Attitude Era. I guess
Okay.
would that be Raws War, Stone Cold, all them? Because I remember I loved Stone Cold. I remember I wanted every Stone Cold figure that I could find in a store.
So, did you have like the Titantron that you would like
With the metal chips in their feet. And
yes.
So my brother did. So my brother had all the cool wrestling stuff.
Okay.
I just got the figures. I'm pretty sure he used me to get the figures and accessories he wanted at the time. And then I pivoted from Mystic Knights into NASCAR Racers. I think that was a TV show after school, and they were like race cars with like boosters, and they could fly and wings and stuff.
Nope. I have a feeling very few people here are gonna know what that is. I'm fascinated by your age and how into GI Joe you are, but we're gonna get there. You can promise. I can promise you guys that. What about like the power of the Force? Like,
so I did have a few. So I don't want to say I remember. What they all got re-released in '97, right?
95.
95.
They were all on steroids.
Okay, so I remember some of the figures, like the I want to say the Royal Guard Duke, or not Duke. Oh my God, Royal Guard Luke, with like the crimson helmet and the cape and the spear.
That was Shadows of the Empire.
Okay, I remember
Which
that
was
figure.
part of that, but
I remember a Boba Fett that I'm pretty sure was Power of the Force.
Yeah.
A Luke Skywalker in the Stormtrooper disguise.
Yeah.
These are probably all somewhere in my parents' basement, to be honest.
They're not worth any money. I'll just tell you, they ain't worth shit. All right.
I don't think they're in any condition to be worth anything, anyways.
It's probably still worth the exact same in crappy condition as if. Look, so John says he'll hook you up. He's always trying to get rid of them. All right. So Matthew says Mystic Knights of Turnagog. What is it?
Yeah, Turnagog. It was on I want to say it was like a Fox Kids or something like that. Wow. Maybe, I don't know. So I remember that, and then from then it went into I want to say Forces of Valor, the 132 scale World War II stuff.
Okay, I kind of
they didn't they were like little miniatures. They weren't you couldn't pose them or anything like that. The proportions were all wonky. I had a bunch of those. I was big into like Plastic Army Men. Who wasn't into Plastic Army Men as a kid?
You know what? I think you're the first person to bring up Army Men, like and even as you know, back in the early '80s, that was just hours and hours of entertainment because you just knocked them down, and when you were done, you restacked them. You had the Germans who realized that the war with Germany had been over for so long. But they were always gray. So the Germans were always gray soldiers. They always had the submachine gun, the weird grenade.
Yeah, like the stick grenade.
Yes. But yeah, I loved Army Men. Those were so much fun. And like I said, you could sit there for hours just displaying them, and then you have a battle, and you didn't care if you lost a couple because then you just went up and bought another pack. So, all right. So those are the toys you kind of grew up on. And a lot of them I don't even remember. But you're talking, you were born in 91. You're still playing with toys till about what age?
So going off of the Forces of Valor stuff, it was more like I thought I was like cool and adulty because they were more like like train scale models and stuff. So
Okay.
I was kind of leaning towards that. Somewhere in there, like Action Man and Max Steel and 12-inch Joes were thrown in for a little bit, and then for Christmas, so it had to be '02. For Christmas, I got a big brawler and tripwire, and
Okay.
gung ho and leatherneck, and then that kind of held me over. And then and that following spring was Joe versus Cobra, and I got a Frostbite and the Neo Viper and Wetsuit and Cobra Moray.
And that's after Valor versus Venom, right?
That's before. That's like what started the new sculpt era, the hideous proportions, the goofy looking
Was Valor?
figures and stuff. Because it was that for a little bit, then it was Sound Attack, and then it was Spy Troops, and then Valor vs. Venom.
Really? Valor versus Venom?
Because Valor vs. Venom was where I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I was kind of getting too old for all that stuff, and I was more interested in, I guess, the violent side of things opposed to the wolf people, the wolf and snake people trying to.
But the Valor versus Venom, that was the 2-packs of everyone, right?
Yeah, so was Joe versus Cobra and Sound Attack and Spy Troops and all them.
Which ones were not the O-ring ones?
The Joe versus Cobra started the not O-ring ones.
Okay. Then that's the ones that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Where they had they were all misproportioned and everything. All right, because I had like all of them, and I never really liked them because they didn't fit on anything, because no O-ring, they just didn't fit right. I always thought that was Valor versus Venom, and I always
still technically was or is or whatever.
So. Yeah, and I always laugh when Chris McLeod talks about Valor versus Venom, because it sounds like he's saying Valorverse, and we know that he won't mention it, so it makes me laugh every time that he talks about Valor versus Venom. So, did you ever get out of collecting or playing with toys?
Yeah. Probably towards, I guess, middle school era.
Okay.
So after Valor vs. Venom, I kind of got into mini mates a little bit, and Hero Clicks, the tabletop game. So my brother and I did that for a year or two. We had a blast. Went to different like tournaments and stuff, all in like the tri-state area. Went to Ohio a couple of times, and maybe one in West Virginia. We did that for a little bit, and then that kind of fizzled out. We kind of like got out of that, but I kind of stayed interested in comics. So so Hero Clicks kind of got me pulled into comics a little bit. Obviously I picked up a Joe comic here and there, but I wasn't like going to the store like every month or whatever to pick up a comic for, like, I think it was G.I. Joe Frontline was the one out at the time.
Yeah, I remember Frontline. Okay, so your brother's 8 years older than you. So I guess my question is, because if you're talking 2002, he's either in his late teens or early
graduated. 20s. So I think that's what kind of did it, was he was kind of doing it to stick with me, to give me something to do.
But at the same time, it also kept you in it.
Yeah.
So you guys both got to use each other to play with toys longer than you probably should have, is what you're
basically. Yeah.
I don't want to say longer than you should have, because really, I mean, I know you'd get made fun of as a kid if you're a teenager, but I have to ask, because so many people, like Ed says, hey, I never got out of collecting. I was always playing with toys and collecting everything. So you continue to do all that stuff.
Yeah. So after Hero Clicks was the mini mates. I still love mini mates. I have a whole box of them in the garage that I need to go through, because my problem when I buy things are that I'm like, oh, the figure's awesome, I don't need all these extra accessories, and I put those extra accessories in. I do it with my classified too, and I drive myself nuts with it, and I just throw them all in like one community bin, except my classifieds are split between Cobra and Joe's. So I've just got bins of just random accessories that if I just would have kept everything separated from the beginning, that'd be a lot better. But if the time were come to get rid of some of that stuff, I'd have to organize it and sort it all. And
I'm regretting that too right now, because I want to get rid of my Valorverse stuff.
Got your jar of hands.
Yeah, well, not only the hands, but so many of the weapons look the same or have a slight tint of color change. And I have them on some of the Joes. I have them just in a bin, and I'm trying to go through them, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, you start off like it's going to be a good thing, but then you realize everything is the exact same reuse over and over and over.
Mhm.
Or at least with the GI Joes, like I know which one is Dusty's gun, which one is Snake Eye's gun, which one is Duke's gun. You don't get that with the Valorverse. You're pretty much
Everyone's
everything.
sharing similar weapons.
Everyone's the exact same for the most part. I know some people get mad about that, but it's just the facts. So, as you got into high school, did you get into sports?
So
I mean,
when I got into mini mates, the same time I also kind of like started to back out of toys in a little bit. I still had
okay.
like my love for comics and stuff, but I wasn't as supportive as it myself. And then video games became a thing to me. So
you would have
so
been
I started
perfect.
with the video games.
Yeah, prime time for that.
Mhm.
I mean, we grew up with Nintendo, so just side scroller all the way, and we spent hours on it. I'll never deny spending the hours and hours on that. But you always collected the mini mates, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I probably stepped out probably around. So we're talking maybe like 04 to 06 probably for mini
Okay.
mates. And then that was like, I guess I was in like 8th grade or going in the freshman year or whatever. And they just started to fizzle out. Like I'd mess with them here and there, but otherwise they just kind of collect the dust.
So I know you mentioned earlier that you were playing lacrosse. So did you get really big into sports? Because I've seen some of the stuff you posted. So I know you are into sports now.
Yeah, now I am. But back then I kind of just only cared about lacrosse. And then obviously my brother and sister played hockey, so I know I've been to a lot of hockey tournaments and stuff growing up, so I'm very well versed in the rules of hockey.
Okay.
And my parents would always joke that I'd always make a amazing ref. So I got that going for me. But otherwise, I played lacrosse from 6th grade all the way through 12th, and then I was one of the defensive captains my senior year.
Okay. So you're going through school, play lacrosse. You didn't play football or anything like that.
I poorly ran cross country to stay in shape for lacrosse, and I was not good. I knew I wasn't good. My coach knew I wasn't good. She knew that I was there just kind of to stay in shape for lacrosse. And but I'll tell you, I had a blast just running around with all those goofballs. So that do indoor track in the winter, which is basically like obviously track indoors, but like all the different races and stuff. And they'd be outdoor runs, and they'd get into snowball fights. They'd do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was a blast. So
I forget who was talking to me. I don't know, one of my kids. I think it was one of my kids or someone else. They were talking to me about doing track on the off season. I want to say football or maybe wrestling, and I was like, really, like you're a big guy, and they were like no, there's like shot put and all this other stuff. Oh, I think it was Lenny actually. It was Lenny that was talking about it, how he would do that, and then he's like, no, there's shot put. I'm like, oh, when I think of track, I always track and field. I always think of like sprinting or long
the
distance
hurdles and
running.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think about the shot put, the discus. What's the spear thrower?
Javelin.
The javelin. I don't know if we ever did that in the javelin. Yeah, let's give a bunch of kids a javelin to chuck at something. What could go wrong? So, what year did you graduate?
2010.
God, you're so young.
I
doesn't even
enlisted with my parents' permission at 17, though.
I'm sorry, say that over.
I enlisted with my parents' permission at the age of 17, though.
Okay, so you went right into the Army.
Yep.
And how long did you serve in the Army for?
8.5 years. So from August of 2010 to February 2019.
How have you had time to do anything in your life? Like you went right from school. Like you seem like you have all this experience, but it's like you were in the Army or high school or in school the whole time.
Just kind of so when I was with the Army, I happened to go overseas almost every year and a half. They'd send me overseas basically. So I went through basic training, graduated basic training, spent 2 months in Colorado. They sent me to Afghanistan. Was in Afghanistan for 12 months. Came back. I was back for about 2 years on the dot, and then they sent me to Korea for a year. And then I was in Korea for a year, came back, was back for maybe a year and a few months, maybe just shy or just over 2 years, around 2 years or so. And then I went to Kuwait for 9 months, and then I came back, and then I was finally back for an extended period of time. And then I finished my time with the Army. So different Army, kindler, gentler Army, peacetime Army.
So was that the reason why you got out?
Yeah, it just wasn't what it was when I joined. And in the Army, everyone above you thinks they know what's best for your career, and they don't care what you want for your career choices. And that kind of was I wanted to go one way, the Army wanted me to go a different way, and I was like, well, I mean, I could just get out. And they're like, you won't do it. And then I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to get out then. I got out. So
Well, you're stubborn.
But I just wanted to go a different route. The route I wanted to take wasn't too bad, and they were like, "Nah, you've surpassed that time." And they're like, "This is what's best for your career at this point because because I did traffic investigations, so I did like crashes and stuff like that, like all the math and physics behind that, and I did that for you get a skill identifier. You're only supposed to do it for up to 2 years, and I was probably in year 5 of doing it.
Do you want me to ask what rank you were?
When I got out, I was a Sergeant E5.
Okay. It's actually like it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. So a guy that I work with, he was in the Navy. He retired from the Navy, but he served for so long. But then he was on reserves. But every time there was a conflict, as a matter of fact, that's how I ended up getting the job where I'm at 22 years ago. Anytime there's a conflict, because 9/11 happened the day they were going to let the other guy go, and they brought him back. And the guy that ended up hiring me looked at Jimmy and was like, "You're going, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he was stationed in Italy, but he was a police officer there. So he's a naval police officer. But since he knew the job, they were always going to call him back. But he was so close to retirement, they knew that there was no way that he was going to step out. So he stayed in the reserves, but every time there was a conflict, and there was a few conflicts, he'd end up getting called back. And they kind of did the same thing to him, but when you're that close, it's like, you gotta get my retirement, gotta get my pension out of this. If I stuck around this long. But yeah, that's actually kind of crazy that you, so you're doing all that. That sounds very interesting, doing all the active investigations and everything like that.
Yeah. So, I kind of stumbled across it because I didn't even know it existed. Went to Afghanistan. I was an open turret gunner as an MP. We got back. They're like, hey, here's all these schools, put in for them, blah, 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 this. And then they're like, hey, we're doing a SRT, which is the Army's version of SWAT. They're taking 3 from each platoon, get your guys, put their names in and stuff. And I was the third guy to put my name in for my platoon. And I didn't make the cut. They changed it to the two names or whatever. And then the day before the class, they called me like, hey, grab your stuff from the packing list. You're going tomorrow. I'm like, all right, did you guys turn everything in? And I show up to class. They're like, who are you? I'm like, I'm replacing Black. His wife had deployment orders, so he couldn't attend. So I'm filling in. My unit sent all my paperwork. They're like, all right, stand by. Probably 20 minutes into class goes by, and they're like, hey, who's that guy we told to stand by? I'm like, they're like, leave your books, grab your stuff. You're not coming back. I'm like, all right, cool. Go back to my unit. My unit's like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at the SWAT school. I'm like, you guys never sent my stuff saying I was going. They're like, all right, cool. A little bit of time goes by. They're like, how's traffic sound? I'm like, I don't know what that is. Sure. They run me around all these people. All these people are like, are you good at math? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And I was like, sure. I don't know what any of this is. And they're like, it's crash investigation. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And they're like, okay, cool. So they send me down, and they're like, this is what it is. You're going to use math and physics and stuff, and you're going to basically rewind traffic accidents to figure out what happened. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm down. So they assigned me to the traffic section in Colorado. They sent me to the Colorado version of the school in December of 2012. And then by June, I went to the actual Army's version, which is run by the Air Force down in Texas. So, and then I've been doing that ever since. And I've been to multiple schools, and I'm actually still certified to do that now. So
awesome.
It's been interesting.
See, that sounds interesting because you're actually figuring things out. What's actually kind of funny, my daughter, She's super smart. I believe she still wants to be a lawyer and wants to go to University of Michigan. I know they're scandalous right now.
Is that the green one or the blue one?
That is the blue one.
Okay, Michigan State's the green
Maize
one.
and blue. Yes. Yeah, we don't like them.
Right, of course not.
But I guess she's been saying that she's going to join the Air Force. And I'm like, are you serious? Do you really want to join the Air Force? And she's like, no, my mom just kind of gets aggravated when I say that. She's like, you're not going to like them telling you what to do, because she's not that type of person. She's really strong-willed, but she's strong. And I'm like, do you want to do that? She's like, it might just be a backup plan if everything else falls through. And I'm thinking, what I was told is that when you join the Navy or the Air Force, you get a job and then you become an airman or a sailor. Where the Army and the Marines, you become a Marine or a soldier, and then they give you a job afterwards when they figure out. And I'm like, yeah, the Air Force, like, you need to be pretty smart to go into the Air Force. They don't just take anyone, especially for like what she wants to do. I'm like, you want to be a lawyer. All right. So you might be perfect. I mean, she might actually be perfect, but I'm like, where did this come from? Because she just starts spewing things out. And I'm like, you don't want to be a lawyer anymore? She's like, no, I do. But if everything falls through, I'm like, you don't just fall through.
I tell everyone when they're contemplating, I'm like, do it. It'll one, look good on a resume, and it might be some of the hardest things you've ever done in your life, but it definitely helps out in the end. It paid for my schooling, a lot of my schooling actually, afterwards and everything, and it's awesome. So I'm very thankful for doing it. And if I had to go back in time to do it all again, I probably would, just because I made a lot of great friends and stuff, and I don't regret any of it. I actually met my wife in the Army, so it all worked.
All right. So Machine Man is saying, what's on the top shelf? I'm assuming you're talking about Bobby's, because people watch my stuff.
So on this windowsill, we got the Toys bear thing. Next to it, we got Veteran William. Next to it, we got Marvel Select Thanos, which is the first figure my wife ever bought me. We got the Pulse exclusive Wampa. We got Rogue One figures, and then we got Gaming Great figures.
So it's actually kind of funny to think, like, you didn't mention one G.I. Joe, and I think that's how everyone knows you for G.I. Joe.
Those are in the details on the other side of the room, so I'd have to spin the whole computer around.
All right, so in the Army, you get out of the Army, but you said you met your wife while in the Army. So yeah, I'm assuming she was serving too.
Yep, she was also an MP. She did. She was an armor. So we both worked at the MP station. I worked the police desk. She used to issue out the weapons and everything. So that's how she'd have to sign the keys out for me. We started just talking, and then it kind of worked out after that.
Doesn't the Army frown on that?
If you're different ranks, yes. But we were both. I think she was a corporal at the time. We were both NCOs, so it was okay.
Okay.
And then she picked up, like, right before we officially started dating, she actually picked up her sergeant also. So
did she get out around the same time you did?
No. So she stayed in a little bit longer, until 2021-ish, I think is when she got out. But she went to Japan, and she had a big gun, and she shot down drones and stuff. So
dating the armor sounds like a smart move. Okay. So you get out now during the time you were serving. You served 8.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Were you collecting any toys?
Yes and no. So this was Pursuit of Cobra started to come out when I was in basics. So there was a lot of letters home asking my family to watch out for them and stuff, and to pick up what they could. And then the what was it? Pursuit of Cobra 30th anniversary Retaliation blunder happened where it got delayed, and then the figures came out, but then the figures stopped coming out, and then they came out again when the movie came out. So I was kind of like picking up figures here and there. And then there was one. So I was in Colorado Springs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fort Carson. It's in Colorado Springs, and there's one Toys R Us in Colorado Springs, and there's another. The next closest one is probably 45 minutes north. Okay. And from what I recall of the Toys R Us, it was horrible. It never had anything up to date. And then I think the new Star Wars sequel trilogies were coming out around that time, so like they were just flooding shelves with all their stuff. So if you weren't a Star Wars collector, I just remember not finding anything. I remember the Creos. I remember trying to find some Creos.
Yeah, the Creoles. You know, I didn't ever pick any up, but I remember seeing them at Toys R Us, and at the Terradrome they had some really nice stuff.
I picked up almost everything but the first series of blind bags, and I actually saw it in store, and I'm kicking myself to this day because I remember picking up two of the figures out of the thing. I was like, oh, I'll just pick these up just to see what they're all about. And I remember them being just insanely expensive for what they were. They're like $9 for a little Lego person or something like that. And I was like, that's insane. I'm not buying any more of these. I hate the concept of blind bags. And that was before I knew you could hop onto what's that old forum site? His Tank.
Yeah.
And it had someone had all the codes for all the bags. They were like stamped on the back or something. So you could figure out who was in what bag and stuff like that. And by this time I went back and they were all sold out. So
did you ever pick up any of the vinyl GI Joes that had like the big heads?
Like the keychain ones?
No, they were they're the ones I have are downstairs. There was like two different ones. Some of them looked like little mugs. Like they were really chintzy, but then they came out with like a second wave.
Loyal Subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first ones looked awful. The second ones looked really good.
Yeah, the second ones were awesome. Those are like $14 a figure. That Hot Topic used to have them.
Yeah, and I picked them up at Toys R Us, and I wasn't collecting at the time, and I saw them and I picked one up, and it was a blind bag, and I'm like, I'll buy one because And I get out to my car and I open it up, and when I open it up, the file card was there. So it's still in a blind bag, but the file card for the figure is there. And I was like, let me go back in. And so I opened up like whatever ones they had, and I pulled one out, and I was like, all right, well, I'll grab this one and I'll take this one. Because I was like, I'm not going to buy the same one over and over. But if I know which ones they are, I'm more than happy to. And if I'm opening them up, what does it matter? You're going to buy
Absolutely,
them.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things I wanted to have you on here for is I'm fascinated by your age. First off, again, I thought you were like 65. With just a deep, smoky voice. How did you get into G.I. Joe? Like, it doesn't compute to me because you're at an age where you shouldn't be. Now, you kind of filled me in with a little bit with your brother being as old as he is, but is that the only reason with it? Or
so growing up, we have a running joke in my family. Well, I have a running joke in my family. I don't think my family thinks it's as funny as I do. That my dad brainwashed me as a kid to enlist. So I remember as a kid watching the old TV show Combat, old black and white show about World War II. And I think it came out in like the 50s or 60s, I think. But I remember watching lots of that. I remember Plastic Army Men. And then I remember Max Steel and Action Man, the 12-inch figures. And I remember with those, I had a ton of those. And then I had the 12-inch Joes. And then I got an APC from like Sears or something. It had 3 buttons and made sounds and stuff. It was branded G.I. Joe, but I don't think it was Hasbro.
Okay.
And I remember I had that. And then Santa Claus brought me Big Brawler and Tripwire, and I kind of fell in love with it. And then I learned there was, a cartoon and all kinds of stuff. And this is all in the early 2000s, early 2000s.
Well, what Tripwire would that? Wait, which ones would those have been?
A Real American Hero collection.
So
it was like it wasn't Baroness, it was like Chameleon, and there's a Cobra Commander. I think I only had two of the 2-packs. There were 2-packs, but they were O-rings. They had the orange and blue.
Oh, okay. I was not collecting at that time. I know now. I know what you're talking. Okay, that's right. There were a lot of Joe figures on the pegs.
Yeah, I remember.
I wasn't collecting because I'm looking at them like I already have those. You're talking about like probably the same time they had the 3-pack of,
like the Arctic mission and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it came out probably right after that stuff. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
But I remember going to the Family Toy Warehouse and I recall just aisles and aisles. And I remember especially the Dragonfly, but it was called the Locust.
I have that.
And I just remember a whole end cap just full of them. And I remember just the orange and blue packaging as far as your eyes could see down the aisles. It was a Family Toy Warehouse. It's now a Spirit Halloween because it was at Bed Bath & Beyond. But
Because it went out of business.
yeah.
So it's not spread out.
Yeah.
What's funny about that locust is my ex-girlfriend, not the one I had kids with, but before her. I think that's the only thing she ever bought me that I said, buy me this G.I. Joe. Like, buy me this. It's the Dragonfly, but it's called the Locust. And I still have it. I wish I had the box because that thing is worth. I think it's pretty pricey if I remember correctly.
I have no idea. I know that I just remember seeing a whole end cap of it and just, like I said, the blue and orange packaging as far as your eyes could see. So,
yep. It's a really good, I mean, all it is a remake of it, but it's, I do like the fact that it's a different color.
It's like a tan, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually hanging downstairs in the G.I. Joe room for all my, 1/18 scale figures that some people feel like I don't collect or something. So G.I. Joe was that prevalent when you were at that formidable age of like picking out toys to play with and enjoy, right?
Yes. So It was, like I said, it became the Joe vs. Cobra series. And then I remember I collected played with G.I. Joes at the time. My neighbor did, and then my best friend did. And we used to would take G.I. Joes to each other's houses, and we'd set up all these crazy battles and get into fights because this guy can't shoot this guy from that far away and all kinds of stuff.
I love that.
I remember that. I remember talking about it to other people and other kids in school that were collecting at the time. So I just kind of stuck with it. Everyone else kind of, faded out. And like I said, I grew out of it. And then, what was it? I remember seeing the 25th anniversary stuff in stores, and I remember seeing the green shirt pack and I'm like, oh, and that stuff's because I didn't troop build as a kid. You don't think of troop. Well, I didn't think of troop building as a kid.
No, I didn't either.
So I had my, my Neo Viper and my Cobra Claws, and that was my Cobra Army. I didn't have, 3 Neo Vipers and 3 Cobra Claws. And you see the green shirts versus Firefly pack. You see the Crimson Guard 5-pack and stuff for 25th anniversary. You're like, oh, that stuff's so cool. Like I'm probably like 18 at the time. I'm like, oh man, that stuff's so cool or whatever. But too bad it's not around when I was a kid. And then Resolute came out. And I remember Resolute, and I was like, this is everything I want G.I. Joe to be right now. Cause I'm, 18 years old. And this is awesome. That Snake Eyes just cut that guy in half. He blew those other guys up. Like, Call of Duty was huge. And that's all G.I. Joe is just an elite team of counter-terrorists taking out terrorists. And that's G.I. Joe. And that's Call of Duty. It's the exact same, plot premise.
So so what you're saying, right now it's making me rethink everything. And that's because, like, I think of G.I. Joe, it's like 80 to 94 was the O-ring run. But I stopped, in probably 89, going into high school. I'm skateboarding. Really, that's all I cared about. And I know what 94 and all that stuff, the neon stuff, that I'm not a big fan of. It never really dawned on me that there's a whole nother generation after me, because I remember seeing all those 5-packs at Kmart, Toys R Us. Because I'd still go look. Even back then, we always went to the toy section
for like the 25th anniversary stuff.
No, it would have been before that. Like the O-ring 5-pack.
Oh, like the Anti-Venom Task Force and stuff.
Yeah, but even seeing all the 2-packs and stuff, I guess. Even though I saw them at Toys R Us, it never really dawned on me that, oh, there's waves of figures. I guess because I was still young and not really into collecting, I would pick up, old G.I. Joe figures at times here and there. And I collected a lot of other things, but I guess G.I. Joe was gone for a little bit. So now I'm kind of thinking more about it. It's like, yeah, this thing can really go on and on because there's so much stuff for Lenny to continue to pick at. And I've been saying that for quite some time. There's so many classified figures that he can pick from.
Just look at Kamakura and Helix.
Yes.
Vipra, if you really wanted to get go down that rabbit hole. But I'm looking at all my figures. So I'm trying to think of who's like not a standard, like a quick go-to Joe figure that's been released for classified. I mean, they could pull some out.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that they're doing it, and I know he wants this to keep going on. But I'm thinking about it. It's like, all right, everyone says that, hey, you know what, this is dying off when we're done. But it's kind of like, no, all through the late '90s and 2000s, there was a whole bunch of figures out there. So there's that generation of kids that, again, you came well after me. That's gonna have this to connect to. So I'm not worried about it. There's always gonna be toys to collect, even when GI Joe goes through another lull. But I guess people think so much that GI Joe was dead, but it actually hasn't been dead for that long. It was dead for like 5 years in the the 15s or the
Yeah.
10s through 50. That's when it was dead. So all
That's
right.
so circling back to that, was it Pursuit of Cobra, GI Joe movie? And I was picking up figures here and there, and I started dating one girl, and she kind of knew about it, but I wasn't as like open to keep it like under wraps for the most part. And then yeah, just kept it like on the download, just pick up a figure here and there. I wasn't like going crazy or like scooping everybody up. If there's like a neat figure, I'd pick them up. But
I agree, Brandon. The Kamakura is way better than what people
still
realize.
not worth that price point, but
you can get them. You can get them cheaper.
Yeah, well, I think he's still on that Amazon sale now. You probably go look him up.
He's
at this point, if you don't have Kamakura, like what were you doing this whole time? So,
and I hate that with the classified when someone goes, "I have no connection to it," and it's like, well, of course you're not, because you were at an age and you weren't collecting. Or people see Helix and they're like, I have no connection to it. I'm not going to collect it. But you're the same person saying like this line is going to die because they're not giving us new figures. And it's like, well, every time they give you one, you're the first person to say, yeah, well, it doesn't do anything for me because it's not my original.
That's like Wolf Spider. Everyone tore him apart, and then if you take that shotgun away from him, he's an amazing figure. I promise you. Just give him a different gun besides that shotgun.
Now that was that the one you got before other people and you got the review out?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That was awesome. I was that Brett sent me those pictures first, and then I sent those out, and then everyone just went buck wild with them. So
I think it's great when you can get a figure before everyone and do the review.
It helps. It helps.
So collecting GI Joe or playing with GI Joe, is that what made you want to join the Army, or was there?
I think it played a big role in it. Growing up, I wanted to be a police officer really bad, and I went to a I don't want to say a state police camp when I was a teen, but it was like a week-long program, we'll call it that. And we got yelled at by a lot of state troopers and stuff. And I realized that a lot of them were prior service. So I was like, oh, I should probably enlist if that's like, the route I want to take. So I kind of like had my mind set on that. And I was just I was basically pretty set in that. Like I didn't want to, I was over high school. I didn't want to keep going to school. I was kind of done with it. And joke was on me because the Army sent me to do a lot of schools. But I was kind of over school at the time, and I wasn't a bad student or anything like that. I had pretty decent grades. Every now and then I'd take a dip, but I had to keep my grades up to keep playing lacrosse, and then I had to keep my grades up in order to. Someone commented earlier, I think it was Bacon, comment about the delayed entry. Yeah, that's basically what I was in, was the delayed entry program. So
okay,
I had to keep my grades up in order to keep my contract with the Army. So when I would graduate, that the Army would take me. So.
Okay.
And I could keep the MP job.
Yeah, we were on the members only stream on last Friday, and Big Bacon was listening while driving in his semi, and we brought up the military, and he's like, all of a sudden he's like, boom, chiming in here, and he's got his phone set up and he's driving. He's not looking at it. He's driving properly, and he's talking to us, and he's like, yeah, I heard someone say the Army, and I had to chime in because I think we're talking about movies or something, military movies or something. He'll probably chime in and say, What does it say here?
MEPS. Military entrance processing station.
Oh, okay. So he's
It's
colorblind, so you can't be
you go there, you strip down to your underwear, you got to walk around all funny with a bunch of other dudes, and then some old dude has to look at your butthole. At least that's what it was when I went. I don't know what it is now. It's probably like you just have to, say that you hate other countries or something like that.
That's what we were. Yeah. So we were talking about the different ranks, and I know I had brought up. It drives me nuts how the Navy's ranks are just completely different.
It's like even I want to say it's the Army and Marines, like their rank, like the logos for their ranks are different.
Okay.
So like
they're all the same ranking, right?
Well, it's all the same pay grades. So
Yeah.
it's E1 through E9.
But isn't it all the same? But it's all the same name. Like the Navy, it's like a lieutenant is what, a captain?
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah.
And a captain is a colonel, I believe. And it's like, man, you're using this. It's one thing to have different names, but then you use some of the exact same names, and you're just throwing everyone off because you're like, but it makes sense. Like you're a captain of the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be more than an O3, right? So I think it's actually kind of funny, but it's always driven me nuts. And I know we were talking about like GI. Well, we were also, that's what we were also talking about was like the different Joe rankings. And it always drove me nuts that Duke was in charge. And it's like, dude, he's a sergeant major. Like there's so many people that outrank him. And even as a kid, I knew that. It's just, I don't know why it drove me nuts. I never liked Duke. Duke always bothered me.
I'm excited for that retro Duke, that's for sure.
Yeah, I always had Gung Ho higher like ranked over him because I hated him so much. Little did I realize the guy's walking around with his shirt just hanging out, with his chest hanging out, and his just vest. Didn't seem to make a lot of sense when you look back at it.
And yes. Some of the Joes, like every time they're rewritten, going off this comment, every time the Joes are rewritten or updated, they're a different rank anyways. So Snake Eyes goes, I think Snake Eyes goes all over the place, and then some people go to 4 to 6, to back down to 5 to 4 again. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I don't mind when they do like a second version if they upgrade it, like Stalker if he's rising up the ranks. Because if I remember correctly, Stalker started off as an E5. And then I think he finally ended at an E7, at least like the last 5 cards I can remember, which makes sense. He would be ranking up. And he was one of the higher ranking Joe enlistment. So, because he was always like in charge of, Snake Eyes and everything. It made more sense. Besides, you can't really take orders from a guy that can't speak.
It would complicate things a little bit.
Especially a sergeant, all they do is yell at people. I've seen movies. So when you get out of the military, so you meet is she your wife now?
Yeah.
Okay. So you meet your future wife. How does she support you in your collecting habits?
So back then, we were talking, Retaliation kind of ended. And then before 50th, I got into Acid Rain, and like before they were made by whoever they're made by now. I think they're Oritoy, I think is who used to make them. Someone used to make them, but the Acid Rain figures, and I fell in love with them. I was like, this is a 4-inch figure, and this is what I hope G.I. Joe comes out with next.
Okay.
And then 50th anniversary came out, and it was kind of like rehashed of Pursuit of Cobra with some 30th anniversary stuff, and then some of the old 50th stuff or 25th anniversary stuff. So
I am listening. So
oh, gotcha. So I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And then 50th was in and out the door, and then that was kind of the end of the GI Joe for a while. So I was like, okay, I'll just stick with Acid Rain. They look awesome. Big into that. And Acid Rain figures aren't exactly easy to get, and they're also pretty pricey. So you can't just collect tons of them at a time because you got to order them through Big Bad Toy Store or import them. And I wasn't in any position to import at the time. So she knew that they kind of existed, but it wasn't crazy. And then I kind of calmed down with a little bit, got out of the Army, came back to Pittsburgh and stuff. She went to Japan, and I was working and going to school and stuff. I was a bouncer and I was a alcohol compliance representative. So I was working 2 jobs and I was trying to um, figure out where my next step in life was and everything. And I kind of got away from acid rain figures and then got word of classified. And I was like, okay, I'll pick up the figures I could find here and there. Then COVID happened and classified figures weren't anywhere to be seen. So I was like, it got to the point where I was so annoyed that anytime I would find a classified figure, I'd buy them. So I was like, I don't want snake eyes, or I had 00 snake eyes. I was like, I don't care for the mainline snake eyes, but I haven't seen a GI Joe in months, so I'm gonna buy this regular snake eyes. And then I kind of started picking them up, and then as what was it, the end of last year when they dumped all those extra figures on us by the end of the year, and then this year where we're getting a year's worth of figure in 12 months, she's annoyed by it, but she understands that it's one of the two things I like to do the most are work out and then obviously GI Joes. So she understands that the GI Joes play a role in my sanity, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Now, does she collect anything?
She likes, I think so when Funko Pops were a big thing, they're not anymore. We got rid of all of ours, thankfully, which was a pain in the ass. But I think the only ones we have are we have the GI Joe ones. We have the Die Hard ones. She used to have a ton. She had a bunch of Lilo and Stitch ones, a bunch of random Disney ones, and then yes,
my daughter loves Lilo and Stitch, and I saw this entertainment exclusive one, so I ordered it, and then I saw BBTS had an Entertainment Earth exclusive one, so I ordered it for Christmas or birthday last year, and then I got it, and I went to put it with the stuff, and I went, son of a bitch, I've already ordered it. My daughter loves Lilo and Stitch, so we get so much Lilo and Stitch, and it's just wait for me to collect something else without it being me collecting it.
Exactly. So we got rid of the Pops, and then she got big into Jim Shore stuff, and Jim Shore stuff is expensive as shit, and there's no like set scale. So you'd like order Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and this thing showed up, and it was probably like this big, and we're both like, what the hell are we gonna do with that? Like that, we can't put that anywhere in the house. It'd be weird to have a giant like Belle princess statue because we didn't have our daughter yet, and we're like, okay, that's weird to have in the house. So we sold that off, and then she's big into like Little Mermaid and stuff, and we have like they're probably like that big or so. We have a couple of those.
Okay,
kind of picks those up here and there. She got big into Loungefly bags for a little bit to try to collect something also, and then got out of that, and now we have a ton of backpacks for no reason. So
backpacks,
yeah, they're like these, I don't want to say designer backpacks, but they're like basically designer backpacks that are like based off Disney princesses, or we have a couple Baby Yoda ones and stuff like that.
So it sounds like she's a Disney fan.
Yes. Okay. Yes, big Disney
fan.
So
she collects. So she has an attachment. Like my ex, my mom's kid, my kid's mother, she has no hobbies. Like I remember, she didn't ever understand why I liked skateboarding, why I collected, the GI Joes, and I didn't even have them really displayed then. And I would say, I'm like, you don't have any hobbies, and she'd go, I have a hobby. It's our kids. No, that's our life. That's not a hobby. You don't have a choice, all right? Like a hobby is something you choose to do because it just makes
an escape.
Yeah. So when you have someone that collects stuff, and it doesn't have to be toys, it could be, spoons or whatever. It's like they understand that there's something not right with us. That is the best way to put it. There's something not right with us when it comes to that. So that's what I was wondering. Like, does she understand? DJ 5 asks, "Hey Bobby, which is your favorite classified Joe and Cobra?"
Oh, Joe's gonna be rock and roll. Everything about that. I just wish he had a little more paint apps on his buckles, but otherwise, I think he's an awesome figure. And Cobra, I'll probably go with either or of the Destros. I think those are perfectly done figures for what he is as of now.
I think Destro is such a good figure. They did try and change him too much. They gave him the wonderful collar, which I always hated on the O-ring that he didn't have it because the cartoon had it. And even though I'm not a big cartoon a cartoon fan when it comes to how I want my figures, I love the way that looked. So I was so glad when they did it. But I think that is such a solid figure. And the fact that they haven't really done another Destro yet. They did the
They're
Pip Daddy
waiting to
Destro.
do Uncle Moneybags, Pursuit of Cobra. That better be the next one we get.
Which one is that?
The all armored up one with like the briefcase full of money and the Gatling gun from Pursuit of Cobra.
I don't remember that. I wasn't collecting that.
City Strike, I think, is what he was.
The one that I like is the one where he looks like he has that turtleneck shirt on.
That was Spy Troops.
Yes,
with the burgundy pants.
Yes, I love that figure. And there is a picture of The Rock, like leaning up against a he's like at his stairs, I think. So he's like leaning up against the railing, and he like if you took the head off, he's like wearing the exact same outfit. He's got gold hanging down. Yeah, so it's pretty funny. But yeah, I like that figure, even though it's from the beginning. I think they did that so well.
He was a different take, so absolutely.
Project Director. No way is Project Director your favorite one. I can't believe that. It's not a bad figure. I mean, it is just the original one, but I was never into the gold. I didn't, that was after my time. I'll be happy when they do an Iron Grenadier one.
I picked up a velvet robe from Joe Fest for him, and he looks 100 times better with the robe on.
I have not matched him with the Crimson Strike team yet. Have you?
No, I've seen a couple pictures and on Facebook and stuff, but I haven't yet.
Because he's definitely going with that Baroness.
Absolutely.
I mean, it only makes sense. So, and again, if you have the Valiverse AK-47, it fits perfect. The gold one?
I don't have that one.
Oh.
I don't have before the weapons tin, I don't have any of those weapon sets.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a gold pistol and then the gold AK-47, which had to be made for that Destro. It fits perfect. And then AK-47 is a little big.
Oh, I can't I gave it to my Killmonger. I can't stand that.
But it fits with some of the bigger classified figures. So like you can't put it with some of the smaller ones, but since Destro's a little bit bigger, it fits really, really well. So Eric says Project Director is the only one to have. And the funny thing about Project Director Destro is like, if I remember correctly, the glasses are actually made decent.
Yes, mine are still on his face right now.
Yeah, so mine are actually in the case, if I remember correctly, because I know I don't have them on it. I believe it's in his briefcase. I just don't understand why they can't do that.
I don't know if it's like it's a sculpting thing. Maybe they can't like sculpt the nothingness behind the lenses to give them that like off the face kind of look or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of
art's not exactly my category.
Yeah, so Wade, I agree with you. The AK, it took me a minute to figure out what you were trying to say. Some of those early Valiverse guns do not fit properly. But the AK-47 does fit with Destro because he's a little bit bigger of a figure. So if you get a figure that's a little bit bigger, they work. But you're right. If you put it with any of the Valiverse figures, it doesn't work.
The new AK he has is pretty nice.
Yes. The one without the stock on it?
Yeah, the one. Yeah. And then way back when Gridiron came out, they started out with AKs, didn't they? Or ARs. They started one of the two, and then I picked a bunch of AKs when they first came out, and those are pretty decent. Now they got the fancy like modern AKs, and those also look pretty good.
Yeah, Tony will let us know. He really likes Gridiron.
I'm hit or miss with some of his stuff, so
I think most of the stuff looks really good. Um, Again, my issue is that they are kind of pricey. But again, I don't know what his operating cost is, and he seems to be doing well. And again, I don't have to buy it if I don't have to buy it if I don't want it. So I mean, I'll continue to say that I think that you could. I'll continue to say that I think you could sell more. But again, I don't know what goes all into that. I know when I was talking with Lenny was talking about it, and he said to do the detail that is on some of his stuff, you just can't do in plastic mold injection. It would take, it may take 3 different pieces to make that one weapon. So he was a big fan of Lenny was a big fan of, or is a big fan of Gridiron. He said, I really like their stuff. So hold on one second. I gotta yell for one of the kids.
Big Bacon, yes, but not. I don't get crazy with Black Series. I mostly stick to Rogue One and then Battlefront figures, and then occasionally, like, I got the Stormtrooper MP up there. I'm a sucker for Biker Scouts, and then as far as Marvel Legends, I mostly stick to Captain America comic and Captain America MCU stuff, minus Killmonger because he was a cool character in the movie and in the show. So the What If show. So.
Really, you like Killmonger?
I thought he was minus his incredibly racial driven villain plotline. I think that he was a very unique character. I don't know anything about the comic book Killmonger, but I thought just having this badass special forces guy come in and beat the shit out of your king got my attention. So
I don't like Michael B. Jordan that much, so I think it probably hampered me liking Killmonger. But I don't really. I mean, I thought he was good in Creed. And Creed 2 was decent, but then you saw how bad Creed 3 was.
I think I liked Creed 1. I think Creed 2 he tried too hard, and then I think Creed 3 that kind of carried over. He tried too hard to play. I don't want to say like an orphan boy from nothing, but he tried too hard. He tried too hard to like create the character instead of just giving himself more depth from that first movie.
In Creed 3, it didn't have Stallone in there to filter out that character.
Yeah.
Without having Stallone there, I mean, it is the Rocky series. I don't have a problem if you want to go off, but that movie bothered me so much because, sorry guys, there's going to be some spoilers here. His mom, who isn't his mom, dies. It's supposed to be Apollo's wife. She took him in, and when she passes away, before she passes away, they have a fight, and he talks about how like none of your kids, even accepted me or whatever. She dies. He's the only kid there. Like, why didn't the other kids come for the funeral? Right? Like they were so mad at her or something. Oh, I hate it. Sorry, hate that movie. I absolutely hated it. It bothered me so bad.
I didn't care much for Jonathan Majors' performance in it, where I liked him as Kang in Loki.
Yeah,
I thought he was super underpowered in Ant-Man 3. Spoiler alert: Ant-Man should have died in that fight, but I don't work for Disney, so
I believe Matthew said the same thing.
Somebody should have died, and nobody died in that entire movie, and it was like you could tell the whole audience wanted. It was like the movie was made for someone to die. It could have been anyone. They could have killed the old lady. And no one would blink the blind eye or whatever you want to call it. But nobody died. And I thought Jonathan Majors was okay. And then I haven't watched yesterday's episode of Loki, today's episode of Loki.
Well, it came out at 9, so
okay, yeah. So I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
No, I won't spoil that. But I like Loki.
I'm very impressed with season 2 compared to recent Marvel stuff. So my wife and I are both enjoying season 2 immensely, where we're actually like, oh, when's the next episode come out? It's time. Let's go.
I like Loki. I really like I know a lot of people didn't like WandaVision. I like WandaVision because you were able to do these weird things that didn't have to follow. I mean, it was leading up to a point, but you were able to venture off and do different things like that. But going back to Jonathan Majors, Matthew, if you know or anyone else knows, He was recently in another movie. It's a World War II or World War One movie, where he's the only black pilot. And I watch it, not realizing that it's a true story. So when it ends, you're like it's this uplifting movie, and then when it ends, you're like, oh, wow. And then you're like, oh, this was a true story. And then you read it, it's like, this is what happened. And it's like, oh, well, it works out because not every ending in our life is happy, you know? Now, in the end, like, you know, the whole families and everything. So if someone knows what movie it is, it's like I think it's actually a World War One movie. But it has Jonathan Majors in it. You know, he's, you know, it's really good. Like watching them learn how to land on the aircraft carriers, then realizing how difficult like those crappy old planes were.
Devotion.
What?
Devotion.
Yes. Who said it?
Me.
Okay. Well, it looks like you were looking at the comments come late for me.
They're showing up faster on my phone than they are.
Oh, that you're looking at your phone. Devotion. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, it is really, really good. Like it is really good. Just know it doesn't have a happy ending.
I forgot he played Johnny Storm also. I forgot Michael B. Jordan played Johnny Storm.
We all forgot that he played.
Baldy just posted that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that was a thing.
Tony, you haven't even seen Ahsoka yet. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying you haven't even seen it. It's so bad.
I like the flashback sequences. I thought that was probably the better parts of the show. Otherwise, there's a lot of not plot holes, but what's it called when they're like you can see the path the heroes are taking or the protagonists are going down?
You mean the fact that they just pretty much tell you everything that's going to happen?
You don't expect anybody to die because the heroes just keep coming out on top over and over again.
Yeah.
I can't think what that's called, but there was just you could just see right through all the writing in that. That's how I felt that was.
Dustin Jeffrey, I've never seen you here, but thank you for joining. I hope you'll continue to show up. I'm assuming you came for Bobby.
Is The Wire the HBO show?
What? Yeah, The Wire was the HBO show based in Baltimore.
Is it when they throw the beer cans up on the roof?
I don't know. Do they?
I used to have a buddy who used to quote, I think it was that, The Wire all the time.
Want to say hi to Payne really quick. People say The Wire is like the best cop show, and I'm like, no, the best cop show is. And I've tried watching it recently, and it's harder now because when I watched it, I didn't have kids. Is The Shield. The Shield is a hard watch.
FX right there.
Yes, it is a hard watch, and not in a bad way. But some of the stuff that they do, the topics that happen, and I've talked to some people that said some of this is kind of realistic, like how you get, I don't want to say rogue cops, but cops that they're kind of dirty, but they're dirty for the right reasons. It's kind of you have to do when you're dealing with, you know, drugs and everything. But I'll still say that it won a whole bunch of awards and stuff, or was nominated for stuff. So the best cop show was Cops. What show was that? What is ATKM again? Anyway, that's what we were talking about. I know we got a classified. I know people want to hear us talk about classified since that's what we talked about. So, right now, okay. So let's just lay it out. Bobby and I are in a race to see who gets Helix first.
We are, yeah, technically.
Although Bobby went the FedEx route for BBTS.
I get it. It's $4 shipping, but it's DHL, and my packages get lost in Ohio for like 3 days, and I don't know what happens. and it blows my mind.
And that's what, like I said, that's what shocked, because when you asked me about the buzzer, and I was like, no, it actually went it went FedEx. But normally when I'm ordering something from BBTS, it's from the pile of loot, so it almost always goes. So when I had it shipped today, it went DHL, which I was like, oh, I remember. It's going to end up getting dropped off at the post office. Again, so basically DHL is it Milton from The Office, that he's a people person? He just takes the blueprints from the people dropping them off to the other guys. That's basically all that it is. Like, I don't understand. Like, why can't you just drop it off at the post office yourself? But yeah. So technically, we are in a race to see who gets it first. It'll probably be Bobby.
Up.
What?
Keep the nemesisness up.
Yeah. I think it really got people on the G.I. Joe Classified, because I think they read that. And yeah, you know what? I kind of did a little bit of people got to know it. And I know Jeremy had actually said, no, it's just something that Punk's son had said. So let's see here. Down south 77 says DHL and FedEx must be in competition for the worst service. Slow and low. I don't have many problems with FedEx. I will admit that. I don't have many problems with FedEx.
For Joe's, I haven't had any products. For some stuff I ordered for work, I had a package say it was going to be delivered on, Friday. And then I checked my app again. It says it's like delivery date unavailable. It basically said it was lost, and like to call some number or whatever in the next following morning. And then the package showed up that morning. So I've no idea what that was about. But otherwise, for Joe's, I've been fairly decent, minus with if I import stuff and it has to be signed for. So
yeah, so you know what's funny is when I get the buzzer figure, I was sitting there and I'm waiting, and my ex was picking up the kids to take them to a family event, right? And she starts going, she's telling me something, and I'm like, I don't care and whatever. And I see the FedEx guy come in. I'm like, go, you guys gotta go. And she's like, what? And my daughter's like, oh, he saw the FedEx truck. And I know what's coming, right? Like, so he gets out, and I'm not going to lie. I knew that there were no reviews out there, and I did want to get it out first just to see how it did. And it does help. But again, the algorithm, the fact, again, I dropped the Crimson one, which people have been reviewing for, quite some time. Same with, what's the landmine guy?
Tripwire.
I mean, people have been reviewing it for quite some time. It's still got good reviews. But I walk over and I'm like, I see that FedEx guy coming up, and I'm like, I'll take it from you. And he goes, all right, you have to sign here. And I said, oh, really? We have to sign? I didn't know we had to sign. And he goes, anytime we're intercepted, we have to have a signature. I'm like, Really? Intercepted? Like, I guess technically I did intercept you, but it sounds so intrusive.
Yeah.
Like the F-22s intercepted a couple of MiGs. Like, I just came up to you as you were like right there because I was on my steps.
That's like, so my mail guy's hilarious, and he's usually pretty cool because he knows that we have our dog Remy, who's an asshole, and he hates delivery vehicles. You could be, an armed burglar trying to break into the neighbor's house, or like my truck or something like that, and she wouldn't let a peep out. You park an Amazon truck, a FedEx truck, the mail truck on the street, she's going ballistic. But my mail guy's usually pretty cool. And then it's funny because the mail shows up typically between 9 and 10 every day. And then anytime I'm waiting for something,
you get their mail early, because I see those videos go up and I'm like, when does this mail come? Because mine comes at 5.
So I leave for work around between 1 and 2. And usually if I'm waiting for something especially from FedEx, I'm like looking out the window, I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, all right, it's got to show up. It's got to show up. And then the second I get in my truck and I leave, and I'm like driving down the road, and next thing you know, I see the FedEx truck turning down the road. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. And then I get a text from the wife saying, hey, you got a package. Can I open it? I'm like, it's GI Joe's. Just leave it alone. Just get it off the porch.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get it when I get home from work, and that's why when I pump out stuff late at nights, because it was just delivered later in the day, and I just wasn't able to get it before work. So when I drop 3 videos at like midnight, that's because I got home from work in the evening, and I was able to crank them all out after everyone went to bed and everything.
I think it's funny because we're all the same way. Like, I know something's out, and I'm looking out the window, and I live in townhouses, so there's only one way in and one way out. It's a really small circle of the streets, and I'm out there looking, and and I see that FedEx truck, and I'm like, oh, here it comes, especially like if it's on a Saturday or Sunday, because they ship on Sundays, so you're all like, and you're looking at that like, but as soon as you see that, first it will give you a date, and then all of a sudden that date goes to like, it tells you that it doesn't know when it's going to be delivered, and you're like, and then you track it back, and you're like, oh yeah, it's sitting there in Indianapolis, just because when it gets trapped in Ohio at times, and is it Indy? There's somewhere in Indianapolis.
Mine's
or Indiana.
It's like Stowe, Ohio, or something like that. My stuff, especially for DVTS, it'll get stuck there for like 3 days. It just doesn't move. Yep. Like, what is going on?
I've seen that. I've seen that also.
Crimson Strike came Sunday, maybe Monday. I think Monday, whatever day it was. And I remember seeing a FedEx truck go by. I was like, oh, it's going to go, down the street, it'll probably turn around and come back up. And it never did. I'm like, all right, cool. And then like the same thing, I left for work, and then I get a text saying, hey, FedEx just dropped off this package or whatever. Or the Ring camera's going off saying there's a package at your door. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Wade, I don't know why, but when my packages come, I always feel the need to downplay my excitement out of embarrassment in front of my wife. You're buying toys. She already is embarrassed of you. All right. You are buying, as Chad would say, dollies. She's already embarrassed of you. All right. She does not tell her parents that you collect toys. She doesn't tell her friends. Like when you're sitting there posing your figures on Friday night and she's out with her girlfriends, she's like, oh yeah, he's out getting drunk with the boys. And they're like, doesn't that bother you? And she's like, and she's thinking, I wish he was out there getting drunk with his friends. He's at home playing with his dollies. So for your channel, let me ask, what is it that is there anything that you're looking to do with it? Or do you just like reviewing the figures?
I wouldn't even call mine reviews. I just call them, I don't even want to call them unboxing, because I unbox them before I do anything, just to save time and the effort of my hands going crazy on the screen. But so I started my Instagram page. I guess that's probably where my main focus is, or I want it to be, but it never is, just with work and life and everything. And so seeing I'm going to use Black Series as an example. Seeing Black Series for the past, probably in the late 2010s, I think I got a few random Black Series figures here and there, mostly the Scout Trooper on the speeder bike, which he's actually displayed up over there in front of the TV. But I got that. I thought it was awesome. And then I remember seeing toy photography, and I was like blown away by some of this stuff.
Stowe, Ohio. That's
what it is. Yeah. They just know it, warehouse, and it sits for 3 days, and then someone comes and picks it up.
I always talk about when it gets stuck at Stowe, and it does all the time, that there must be some sort of action figure vacation resort there. That they just they sit there, they open them up, they got big sun lamps and everything, probably water slides. All right. So I'm sorry.
You're good. So I remember seeing all these pictures of like Black Series figures and seeing these stormtroopers out in like the mud and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, those look so awesome. Like and I've always had a soft spot for GI Joe, so I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. I wish GI Joe would come out with a 6-inch line, and then lo and behold, Classified comes out. So I'm like, okay, yeah, pick and choose now. And then now I'm 100% completionist with 3 of every trooper minus regular Cobra Viper or Cobra Island Vipers. I got a shit ton of those. So I remember like, oh, I want to do toy photography. And then it turns out that I'm not the best photographer a lot of the times. And, sometimes I'll squeak out a picture that looks fantastic here and there. And then I have no editing skills. So the only editing I'll ever do is through my phone, or and that'll basically be it. So nothing too crazy. Everything's mostly practical or something, or I'll object erase a piece of wire out that's holding something up or something like that. But so I did that, and then I got into the YouTube game when the Bats and Alley Vipers came out, because Yo 19 Kilo on Instagram, he sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, did you see these listings on Walmart? They were like GIJ, CS, and then Apollo and whatever the other one was." And he's like, "What do you think they are?" I was like, "I don't know those code names. Last time I ordered GIJCS from blah 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 from Walmart, it was just the Cobra Commander." And I was like, "You know what? I'll order the Apollo and the other one just for shits and giggles. Worst comes to worst, I can always return it." Turns out it was the Bat and the Alley Viper. And then everyone's like, I posted the pictures. Everyone's like, "Oh, you got to do a video. You got to do a video. You got to show everyone what you got. You got to do a video."
I think that's where I actually found you, because you are one of the few that just took that blind faith leap of just ordering them.
Well, like I said, last time I did it, I got the Cobra Commander. So I was like, well, I got a figure that's a year old. What am I supposed to do with, what if it's, and then I was like, you know what, I could just return it. So yeah, I got it. Everyone's like, do the video. And I was like, where am I supposed to do this video at? Like, I got some poster board, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of did it that way. And then, going down the line, you talk to a bunch of different people. Me and you started talking and stuff. And you're like, you don't have anything that's like you. And then Yo 19 Kilo made me the Bees Battlegrounds logo and stuff. And then he's like, what is something you want? And I was like, I would love HESCO barriers for my photography and stuff. And he's like, you know what? Let me see something here. And he ended up making the HESCO barriers. He put them on a file, sent them to me. I got them printed out at FedEx, and then I just kind of cut them, folded them all together, and they look awesome. And now they're just in the background of all my videos and stuff. So I keep my branding still around.
Well, if you don't brand, like, people will like I always say, like, whether or not people like me or not, they'll see my logo, and if they like me, they're going to click on it no matter what it is, except for unless it's Masters of the Universe.
I know there's some people that won't click on my stuff because it's me.
There's that too. I'm sure
someone you called out in your last video, but we'll leave them out of this, because I don't want them to get up in their feelings and be in my messages again.
Well, there's a lot of clickbait out there, so
that video was nothing but clickbait. So
all right, Ryan asks, Lawrence, can you ask Bobby how he feels to be the first on all his reviews? Oh, we've already discussed that, because we're discussing how right now we are in an active fight to get Helix first. And unfortunately, he went with the FedEx route. I went with the DHL route, and I'm probably getting it.
Aren't you like distance-wise closer?
Yes, okay. I believe so. But you have to understand, because we live in a peninsula, no one wants to come up here.
That's fair.
Like, I watch bands like travel right by us, and they hit Ohio. Then they'll like come up into Grand Rapids on their way to Chicago. And I'm like, you realize everyone lives in Detroit, and it's really only about an hour and a half up. But I wouldn't want to go to Detroit either. So normally when we do get bands here, especially like the punk bands and stuff, they're traveling here and then going usually into Canada, or they're shooting straight up and coming back, or they're crossing back over to get to New York. But yeah, we get that all the time. So that's why we'll see it. Ryan can probably tell you, because he is he's here with me. So but I want, you see the stuff, like, I'll see it get stuck in Stowe, Ohio. Matter of fact, I watched some of the stuff, and if I remember correctly, it'll pass us. And I think Stowe, Ohio is towards the border of Pennsylvania.
I think it's, I want to say less than 2 hours from me, and I'm in Pittsburgh, so probably I'm pretty close to the border, yeah. So
if it's not Stowe, there's one place that it's right by Sandusky. It's close to Sandusky, which is close to the border. So it'll pass by me, go there, and then it comes back. Then it comes back to come up to Michigan. I'm like, you could have just jumped on, 94, 96 there and just headed right here and dropped it off. Hell, I could have met you in a spot. I'm okay with that. I drive all day for work. I can meet you somewhere. But do you have any intentions of like doing more with your channel, or are you just gonna do the reviews? I mean,
Yeah. I wouldn't mind it. I just don't know what direction I'd exactly take. And then as you can tell from my reviews, I don't edit anything. Everything's one shot. The most I'll do is pause the camera which I forgot to do during my Crimson Strike box set. So if you guys watch that video, you hear me struggling with that cardboard box. You hear me struggling with the Baroness head.
I laughed about that because I had to stop it too. But I've done that before, and every now and then I'll do it. I don't like unboxings because no one needs to see you unbox it. But I've done it a few times if it's something brand new, because some people do want to see what the unboxing looks like. But you didn't stop it, and I was laughing because I'm like, he never does that. Like he never.
Yeah. So I'd look up. I'm like, shit, I did it again. Shit, I did it again. But every now and then I'll do a review, and for Wolf Spider, like I did the whole review. I was so excited to do it and everything, and I looked down after I stopped it and started like cleaning up my table, and I picked up that stupid little piece of string he came with, the rope he came with, and I was like, I forgot to say something about this. I'm like, someone's gonna be losing their shit in my comments, because Snow Job, I think it was, I didn't put the skis on his feet.
You didn't put the skis on his.
And some dude was just losing his. He's like, "You serious? Are you serious right now? What? You didn't do this? You didn't do this? You didn't do this?" And I'm like, it's a toy. Like, you don't understand that it just pegs in. Like, it's not exactly rocket science to figure that out. And this dude, like, it was probably like 6 messages in a row, and I think the message might still be there. I started deleting some, but I got to the point where if you comment something dumb on my channel, I'm just not going to respond to you, because I used to delete like the ridiculous messages, because I used to get some off the wall stuff. So especially about how I talk. For what was it? I've been trying hard. I've been trying hard to say Zartan instead of Zartan. But growing up, I've always said Zartan, so it just kind of stuck with me.
You also say figure.
What am I supposed to say?
Figure.
It's
figure.
Figure. Ah, I see now.
You're not the only one that does it, and there's one guy that drives me nuts, but he says figure so many times. But then I caught you doing it, but you don't say it like 84 times in a video.
Figure.
But there's one person that says it and it drives me nuts. Luckily, I don't really listen to him too much, so I don't have to really worry about it. But yeah, you say it. Chris McLeod says it, but he's foreign, so
yeah, he's got the accent.
So sometimes stuff like that comes up. But yeah, I know I caught the Zartan, but it never really bothered me. So it does make me laugh, because I know that I meant, but about the YouTube, I know I had mentioned to you about getting monetized, and
yeah, you're like, you're already doing it, you might as well get paid. And I was like, all right, I'll try to figure it out. And then for whatever reason, YouTube didn't understand what country I was in, and there was there was probably like a week of correspondence between me and a robot, and then me and a person back and forth. And I'm like, I'm in America. I don't know how. Like, the thing says United States. I don't know what you want from me right now. And then
McLeod. Sorry, he was asking. I meant Chris
MacLeod. Yeah, it's MacLeod. The robot. It's MacLeod.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said MacLeod, and like Matthew was like, it's McLeod, and you're like, that's not how it looks.
Yeah, it's not how it's spelled. It's not how it's spelled. But I also say buggy, so instead of shopping cart.
I laughed because I saw Matthew like post that, and you're like, that's not how it's spelled. I'm like,
yeah. So.
But I remember I had asked you, because I'm watching your views, and obviously, like, if you ever look at your analytics and what you make per video, there's no rhyme or reason for it. I will say this: if it has a female figure in it, I make less money.
As far as the algorithm thing goes, if it's not G.I. Joe, and then Valaverse has picked up since some of my Valaverse stuff has barely, like, I did a flashback video of Rollout. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I did him in Kill Switch, and those, like, nothing. I do a weapons pack, and it goes through the roof, and I'm like,
weapons pack, people love it.
Do people love this stuff that much?
Yes, they love the weapons pack, because people want weapons. But I know, like, ours would be different because mine are longer, so they'll be more like there will be more commercials and stuff or more ads throughout. So I remember I was asking, hey, did you get that? Did you get that? Settled? So I'm seeing your reviews, and I'm like, man, like you should be able to. You should be covering some of your figures, or at least putting a big chunk into it. And why not? We're already paying
I'd
for
probably
it.
say with my importing and stuff, it almost balances out. I'm not exactly going
Yeah,
positive, but it definitely
and
helps.
that was
And
my
I'm
big.
doing it anyways, so it doesn't.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing. Is that I already got them. If I'm going to review them, I might as well. But I remember
Yeah.
when I first asked you, and you're like, "Yeah, there's an issue with it, and it thinks I'm in a different country." I'm like, "Aren't you in like Pittsburgh?" And you're like, "Yeah, like right outside." I'm like, "Dude, you need to just again, like, you don't have to be actively trying to make so much, but it's like you're putting these things out, you're getting 5,000-6,000 views. Just get some money for it because it doesn't. It's going. The money's going to someone, and
Yeah.
it's not us. You might as well get some of it. Here's a Dustin Jeffrey said, "Is it soda or pop?"
It's pop.
It is pop. You are absolutely correct. Even though you're from Pittsburgh and they stole the Stanley Cup from the Red Wings. Anyway,
I mean, didn't the Red Wings win it that first year? Red Wings win it that first year?
yes, and they should have won it the second year, but thanks to Psycho Eddie the Eagle.
Well, I mean, Hossa decided to leave the Pens and go to them, and then lost anyways. So that's probably the biggest slap in the face.
And then he left and he went to the Blackhawks and started winning like crazy. But
The Pens won the night. They beat the Avalanche. They're not undefeated anymore. So,
you know what happened before that 09 finals, right?
no, I don't. At least if I did, I don't remember.
So we heard about this after because Lidstrom didn't talk about this. Sorry, guys, we're hockey talk now. So the big three that the Red Wings had were Zetterberg, Datsuk, and Lidstrom, the greatest defenseman of all time. And so Datsuk was on he had a broken ankle, but it was able to. Did he even play? But he had a broken ankle.
I don't remember.
But it came out afterwards, and Lidstrom was like, I wasn't going to say anything. So, yeah, I love Psycho Eddie, exactly. So, in the series before, Psycho Eddie, in goal, he did a fucking chop shot to Lidstrom, to his fucking crotch, right? He had to have emergency surgery because he cut him so deep.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he played through that. Now I'm not going to say it. I'm not saying they would have won had they been 100%, but it still makes me mad because I'm like, they should have won back to back. And I was not a big fan of Crosby, as you might imagine.
Not too many people are, unless you're from Pittsburgh.
I wasn't a fan. This is why I'm not a fan, because Lemieux, who I think had he not had all his illnesses, probably would have been the greatest hockey player of all time. He says, we're moving the team. And then magically they get the first pick of the draft. Where for years and years and years, they asked the Red Wings to not leave the Western Conference and go to the East because they needed them as a strong original six in the West. I'm going to say this. I still wish they were in the West. But I don't sleep. I don't care. I'd stay up to 2 a.m. watching. I didn't care. I liked those rivalries that they had with. It made no sense because, we were the only. They were the only team with a Eastern Standard Time that's playing over in the West. But I loved it. That's how I grew up. I'm like, I love it over there. Dustin says it. F. Crosby.
Hey, he was saying something about the Predators when they went to the finals. I think they lost to the Penguins, didn't they? Was that 16? 17?
I don't know because I can't watch. It bothers me. I know they went to the finals. It bothers me that the Golden Knights won it last year. You didn't even. You don't deserve it. You didn't put in the blood and the guts for all the years. But with that said, it still does keep a Canadian team from getting it. So That makes me laugh. Did you know that Since the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup, both their Canadian teams, the Raptors and the Toronto Blue Jays, have won the championships. Now, technically, the last time the Blue Jays won the World Series, it was in '93, the same year the Canadians did, but the Canadians won it earlier in the year. So their trophy that they haven't won since '93. That's a long time.
Yeah,
that's a long time that one of their teams could not have just won one. Hurricanes. We have hockey in the South. You know what? Carmanos, who owned the Whalers, and then the Hurricanes, is from Detroit. Carmanos Cancer Center. Because of them, the Red Wings became a dynasty. Because Brendan Shanahan, who I just sent you guys the pitch, the shaving the armpits thing,
mm-hmm.
he didn't want to play for the Whalers, and he said he demanded a trade, and they traded him to the Red Wings, and the Red Wings sent Keith Primo, and they threw in Paul Coffey because Scotty Bowman hated Paul Coffey. He hated Paul Coffey so much that he just sent them away. All right, that's enough hockey talk because I'm sure people are like, what the hell? I just want to hear toys.
It's like bringing up Master Universe.
Oh, no.
I did Masterverse for a little bit, but just with trying to track down whatever figure came out next, and then a week later it's on clearance, I was like, all right, I'm done with this.
So you have some of the Masterverse figures.
Yes.
What is your honest opinion of them?
They feel very much like toys, but I like. I'm a He-Man 2000X guy, 200X guy, whatever you want to call it. I love that show, but I never got any of the figures at the time. So when what was the Revelations?
Yeah.
Revelations came, or I saw it was coming out. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I saw the Origins line, and I was like, I mean, I could get into it, but I don't care to get into it.
What do you think of them as a figure?
The Masterverse stuff?
Yeah.
So I like the figures, but they feel very toy-like to me. But as far as like switching hands and heads and gear and stuff, super easy, super nice. And there you can go to Walmart and find Masterverse figures. You can go to Target and find Masterverse figures. So,
I think they're such good figures. Now I don't want to collect them. You know, I mean, I'll pick some up here and there, but they're good. I don't feel like if you give them to your kid, they're coming back broken in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And Eric, listen, Gretzky is the greatest hockey player of all time.
My brother, sister, and I, we have two 12-inch Wayne Gretzky figures, dolls, whatever you want to call them. No stick. That's just the figure in his hockey uniform. We got an Oilers one and a Rangers one. And we actually, when we go house sit for each other, we hide it in the house somewhere. And it's basically turns into a game. So every time you dog sit or you house sit, you gotta move the Gretzky somewhere in their house.
That is awesome. Listen, I have no problem admitting Gretzky is the greatest hockey player. The guy has more assists than people have points. That makes no sense whatsoever. And everyone, if you're a hockey fan, you know, as great as Steve Yzerman was, Steve Yzerman would have been the greatest hockey player of his era, except for he came up at the same time that Gretzky and Lemieux were playing. Like, at the same exact time. Like, what is the chances that you score 155 points in a season and you have two people ahead of you? Like, it doesn't even compute. You have Gretzky and Lemieux ahead of you, and you couldn't look and see 155 points and not be like, oh, you're an MVP. But you're looking at like, oh, well, these two other guys who just happen to be playing at the exact same time. But if you don't know, Steve Yzerman is the captain, not that guy that played for the Yankees, who ruined baseball franchises after he leaves and then just quits.
I am waiting for a Masterverse Keldor, though. I will pick up that, but that probably won't pick up any other Masterverse figures. because Keldor's my favorite. I don't want to say character, but I guess I like the whole backstory of Skeletor. I picked up the Origins one. I was hoping for a Masterverse one. So.
I thought that was really good. I like the why am I like these ones here. And this one's kind of mix and matched here. But the Origins one,
yeah.
But
So
I changed his body so he's on Adam.
Yeah.
Because they came out with the He Skeletor that I was like, man, they really should have made him the He Skeletor that they did for the Mattel Creations. They should have made it with this head sculpt rather than using He-Man, because that made more sense that it's He Skeletor.
Mm-hmm.
Mossman just was. Mossman is the best one, but I can't spend $40 on it. Now, if I find him and someone's like, "Hey, yeah, that Mossman is $40."
Why is it $40? Because it's flocked?
No one knows why it's $40.
Oh, okay.
I think because it's flocked and it's a Walmart exclusive.
Mm.
But that's what those. So I don't know if you follow Hella Dope Toys, but Ted did this Mossman video, and he's like, I had to get my money out of this $40 figure because this figure is not worth $40. So he's like, he did this Mossman video. It's hilarious. And that's kind of where it kicked in from. And then he did a second one. And I was like, dude, I need a commercial.
These are like the Hella Dope Toy commercials, right?
No.
Aired last week?
Well, I aired one, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, can I get a Mossman commercial? But before that, he had already done 2 videos. So this guy here, a random, they were talking about, they had someone on their show, or they were on someone's show, and randoms in there, and they talked, somehow a Mossman vehicle came up, and this guy does amazing dioramas. He just starts sculpting one while he's doing it. And then the show's not even over, and he's sending them pictures of what it looks like. And then he flocked part of it. He sent it out to Ted. Here's Ted right here. Mossman is the best, still not worth $40. But you're getting your money's worth out of him now. Everyone is. It makes no sense because the Flock Panther was $40, and there's a lot more flocking on that than every time you say flocking, it sounds so stupid. You sound like you're in Battlestar Galactica and they can't swear, so you're saying fracking.
What about that? Yeah.
Frack this.
I do collect the Mega Constructs Master stuff.
Yeah, so I gotta ask you about that because I know you're big into the Master of the Universe Mega Constructs. Is that why? Because of the 2000X?
No, well, I've always liked it and I thought it was cool. But when my now wife, but at the time we were just dating, we moved in together, and I want to say I found like the Battle for Eternia 5-pack at like Walmart for like stupid cheap or whatever. I was like, okay, I'll pick it up. It's neat. They're small. Based off the mini made thing, I think that minifigures are cool, a lot of fun. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll pick them up. And I thought they're really cool. And then I saw the Castle Grayskull was coming out. So I'm like, oh, that'd be fantastic. But it's, whatever 1,600 pieces or whatever outlandish number it is. I was like, and I don't know what I'd do with it. Well, wife was in Japan. I was here, and she shipped it to my brother's house. She bought me the Mega Constructs Castle Grayskull, shipped it to my brother's house, and then like my brother surprised me with it. Like I had no idea what it was. Like I was like picking this giant box up, it was still wrapped. I'm like shaking it. I'm like, what is this, broken glass? Like what and it was the Mega Constructs Castle, and I was like, well, now I'm fully invested in this line. So I was like tracking down all the single figures and stuff, and then I think it was Scareglow and Mech and Neck were like impossible to find in store, but they were showing up at Five Below. So I was at school one night and I text my parents. I was like, hey, if you guys are going out, could you guys swing by Five Below and let me know, if you guys see this? And I sent them pictures and stuff. And they just said, okay, so, sure. My parents don't exactly support my toy buying, but they don't dismiss it at the same time. So you know, a couple days passed, and I was over there for dinner or something like that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we picked these up for you. They were $5 each." And I'm like, "Well, how many else did they like? How many did they have?" They're like, "Oh, they had like a whole row of them." And I'm like, "Well, you just picked up the one of each." I was like, understand these are going for like 50, $60 for this little guy on eBay right now, and I have the intentions to buy and sell on eBay, but I never do. So I have stacks of just random extra classified figures that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll put those on eBay someday. I'll put those on eBay someday. It drives my wife nuts because I just have boxes of just nonsense. And so that was that. But yeah, I found those, and then I got it took me 16 hours to build Castle Grayskull, like not all at once, but like spread
Yeah.
out, just because it's so nuts. And then Snake Mountain came out last year, and then my wife built half and I built half. Our dining room table was covered, and then the Eternia Playground Battleground just came out this past August, and that sat on my dining room table for probably a good month, and then I finally decided to finish it.
You're not gonna have much time to do that soon.
I barely have time to do it now. It just sits on my table.
I'm sorry. You're not gonna do that soon because you're gonna have a little child that is going to be moving much quicker than you think. How old is she now?
She is 3 months.
Yeah.
So.
Because they start crawling and they go from crawling to walking really quick.
That's so everyone's like, oh, enjoy the little years, and I got it, but I'm excited to have that partner in crime. That's what I'm looking forward to. So
I'm just saying, like, to like, especially for Legos. I will say this, since it's your first and you're young, I tell people like, hey, enjoy every moment, because what's going to happen is that if you have a second one, I don't know if you guys are planning on it, or you have a friend and you see a friend with one, like you'll see them doing something and you'll be like, oh my God, I totally forgot she used to do that. Like the little things that they do at that age come and go so quickly that you totally forget that. People make it seem like they're crawling forever. They don't crawl that long. All right. They crawl long enough to figure out how to pull themselves up and take 2 steps. And once they take 2 steps, you do this.
It's game on.
Oh, that's cute. And then you turn back and you're like, whoa, how are you here? Like, what? Did she have a head of hair, like a full head of hair?
No. So she lost all her like born hair. I don't know. Except like she has like an old man stripe like on the back. Oh, I call it an old man stripe, but she has like still like long hair down here, and the rest is like bald, and then it's starting to come in. So she's getting it slowly but surely.
Yeah, Matthew says my 7-year-old is obsessed with Lego. We used to build sets together when she was 3 to 5. Now she builds them herself. So what's funny?
You got to go in there and snag a few pieces out, and then that way she needs your help for
it. So what's funny about the hair thing is that when my son came, he had a full head of hair. When our daughter came, she had no hair, and it took over a year for her to really start getting hair in. But Andrew had a full head of hair, and I'm working one day. He's probably 9 or 10 months old. Now, mind you, she already had a daughter. My stepdaughter is 9 years older than Andrew. I get a phone call. She is in tears. I'm thinking something awful happened. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? She's like, I was washing him. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like he drowned. Like, what's going on? Like, she's like, I washed his hair and it all came out. I'm like, what? and because it's the early hair, so it falls out because it's so silky. And I'm thinking, you have me like freaked out. You're in tears because you want like, but she was still emotional at the time. But I'm like, come on, like let's not do this. I'm like freaking out about it and shit, but you'll learn. You'll learn. There's so much fun though. Like, and you are right. Like you'll learn to appreciate like the girl toys that you can use as like Care Bears. I was collecting the Care Bears for my stepdaughter, and I couldn't find one. I told the story a few times recently. It drove me nuts. And my ex was just like, she doesn't care. I'm like, she's missing one. She has 9. We have 8. Like, you don't understand how bad that bothers me. So that's basically your. I know we kind of got off topic there, but that's kind of your intention with your YouTube, then, right? Just
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind expanding, but I don't know what direction I'd go in that isn't already done, and I don't want to like steal anyone's thunder, or, like drive any like there's 101 GI Joe news outlets out there, so I'll just be another match in the fire. So
Well, you
some
just
don't credit people, some do credit people, and then just some are like hours late, and then there's some that just make up shit as they go, and um I'm still waiting on my Python Mindbender. I think he's coming soon. I have high hopes. I want to put him in that Python trouble bubble and be good to go. But um, I don't exactly know what direction I'd go with it. So
but I
and
won't.
then like doing the history of Joe's, like JLS Comics. I've seen him in your chats a couple of times. I love watching his videos.
He does wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and he covers everything too. Like he covers the Joe versus Cobra era. He covers all the different comic arcs, cartoon arcs. He nails it. And then he's just on it for that. So I do enjoy him and his stuff. But like I said, I wouldn't want to steal anything. I'd want to do something new, I guess, but there isn't exactly anything new.
Yeah,
So
there's always stuff. And again, like I tell everyone now, like I wanted to have my face in the camera because I feel that gives people a personal touch. And I think we've seen that from the live streams that I've done and how the channel grows. But I know like a lot of people, they watch what you do. They like what you do. You don't sugarcoat it, which I don't either. And I think that's what people like. But like for you, like Travis was the one that said it. Like, if I want to just hear about the figure, all right, I'm going to turn into Bobby because they're 8 minutes. When I saw yours was like the Crimson one was like 18 minutes. I'm like, that's a long video for him.
6 minutes in that damn box. 6 minutes. I looked at the timer. I'm like, you got to be shitting me right now.
But there's a lot to cover with that box. And,
Yeah. And then I'm as I'm taking it apart, I'm finding the mortgage is your future, or the mortgage you're now for your future, whatever it is that's stamped in the bottom of the red insert.
Yeah.
I'm like, nobody's fucking talked about this yet.
Well,
And then I went back into that Joe versus Cobra comic. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's written somewhere. And then I checked in the when they do that twins evil one shot where it goes one twin's telling the story, then the other twin tells the same story backwards. And I was like, oh, they said something in the window there, and it wasn't the same, but it was something not mortgage the future, but like invest in the now or something like that. So
yeah, and again, like Ryan says he loves your stuff, and I know there's people that don't like me, but there are people that are like, hey, I really like your stuff, and I always reach out. I ask people, like, what do you like? Like, what is it that you like? What don't you like? What do you think I could do? Be constructive criticism. I can take it because I'm always trying to change things, and maybe there's a reason why I don't do it that way, and maybe there's certain things. The whole turntable that I do was all because of Ed. Because he's like, it'd be pretty cool if you had something like you could just kind of wrap up like what you think. And I was like, oh, I have this turntable that I had planned on doing something else, like a month end review, but it was just too much work. And I'm like, you know what? But I have this. I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. And then once I realized, I'm like, I should just do it within 1 minute, and then I get thrown into a short a couple days later. Like Down South 77. I'll be tossing my ring in that soon as well. Thanks for the encouragement from here.
do it.
This is what and I think I watch a lot of different YouTubers that talk about how to grow your channel, how to do better experiences for people. And people will always say, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. And the one thing like Nick Nimmin had said is he goes, listen, what you hear and what you see, you may not like, but that's what everyone sees every day. So don't think anything about it. That's what everyone sees when they talk to you and when they see you at work. So it's nothing to be bothered by. Just none of us like to hear our own voice. Well, I can't say that's true. There's some people that really like to hear their own voice. But, you start doing it and you start to experiment. Take elements of things that you like from people, but don't copy people. There's too many copycats that just completely copy everything. And to be honest, the whole reason why I started doing the one shot takes, the way that I was doing it was because of the Tigra video that I did. That I showed, I opened it up, and like you can hear me getting more and more mad over how bad it is, over the articulation, over the paint, just everything in general. And people are like, sorry to laugh at you, but I'm like, no, it is cool. And then I realized, like, let's just open these figures up, leave them out, and then go right one shot.
Ever since my Serpentor video, every classified and Valiverse figure I get, I open, I throw them in sink hot water. Like I have a bowl, I fill it with hot water, I throw the figure in, leave the figure in it for a hot minute, mess with everything, get everything set up, grab the figure, dry them off, make sure all the joints and stuff bend, and then do it. Because I feel that me doing my Serpentor the way I did soiled the way I liked it, soiled my video. Because I was just so annoyed with how crooked his the diaper piece on his like crotch was and everything. I was just so annoyed about the whole figure just from the start that couldn't bend the elbows and stuff. And then you get figures like Blowback, where I was just blown away by how amazing,
perfect,
how smooth that figure is, everything about him. And then you get dudes in the comments that are like, this is the figure, this is your ideal figure, this is what you're saying the standard is. And I was like, did you watch my video? Like everything about this figure was like smooth. I could pop his head off and on. I could switch his hands out without like boiling or anything like that.
Matthew and I have talked about that so many times. That special deployment series was as perfect of a figure that you can get. Like all of them. Like absolutely. The plastic was perfect. The joints, they moved smooth. Nothing was tight. You could pop the arms off or the hands off without heating up or feeling like you're going to pop them out. That's what I said about these AWOC figures. They are so smooth. The wrists pop out. You don't have any issues with it. And I'm like, this is a perfect figure. I mean, it's hard to say anything is a perfect, perfect plastic, perfect mixture. Yeah. But you get that special deployment series, and I'm like, yeah. And not to mention, the Blowback head looked amazing.
Yeah.
It's still his best head that he's done.
And then you get, your Warpath Eclipse, and you're fresh from Joe Fest, and you're excited, and you pull the damn neck peg right out of the torso on camera, and you're like, all right, this review's over. He did replace it though. It took a little bit. It took a few days to get like any kind of response. I think I sent like 2 emails or whatever, and then I finally got a response. I also reached out to a buddy of his to I was like, hey, do you know what's going on? And I think I just chalked it up to they were just getting back from the convention and stuff. But he did replace it. So
that was so funny because I could actually hear you deflate.
I mean, I was excited for the figure, and then and I was like, I don't know how to fix this.
And what was comical, it was either right before or right after you did that video. I had dropped a video of something else. I forget what it was, but something broke while doing it. And Allison made a comment about like, oh, I could just hear you getting deflated or something like that. And I want to say it might have been like right before. It wasn't classified. I don't believe it was classified or Valiverse. I can't remember what it was. And I forget exactly what it was, but I just remember she made a comment. And then like I heard you, and you can just hear it in your voice. Like you went from like super excited, like a fucking 5-year-old that just got a brand new toy, and then it's broken. And like you can just hear everything deflate out of you. Which made me absolutely laugh. I was very
disappointed. Since I got the new one after I did my hot water surgery to put all the pieces back together that I got, I haven't removed the head since on that figure.
I'm scared to remove some of the heads, especially on the Battleverse figures.
And then I've seen both ways. So I've gotten the green slip that says heat the figures up before you do X, Y, and Z. And then I've also seen screenshots from correspondence with Valiverse saying the figures are good now, you don't need to heat them up anymore, or something along those lines. And I'm like, I don't know which one to trust, but I'm still going to heat up, but I'm just going to find a better way to hold and hope that I don't pull another neck peg out.
So Dustin says, I like both you guys reviews because you keep it honest, not overly positive or overly negative.
Just wait till my shock blast shockwave video. I'm going to be rolling around my backyard in an MP uniform.
I made a comment to you about, I think it was about Stalker, and you're like, and about him being from Detroit, and you're like, are you gonna go in your backyard and do a review of him? And I was like, I knew exactly what you were talking about. I'm
Like, I get it from like a presentation standpoint, but to just completely like destroy the figure while you're doing a 30-minute video on them, it just I don't understand that. I don't understand it, especially GI Joes that are like goofy, goofy
You know,
dressed. I'll use that term loosely. Goofily dressed to begin with.
yeah, and they don't make a lot of sense. Um,
So
and like I said, I mean, one of the reasons why I do my reviews the way that I do them is that I want people to see, like, hey, this is how it is. I didn't have to. I didn't have to heat anything up, and you can see, like, I've been honest. Like, oh, you know what? I gotta stop this really quick. Go heat up this joint. Um, one of the biggest things, and I keep telling people when
I'm
you're,
still listening.
when you're messing with the joints, it's like, don't try and be He-Man. Don't try and prove something, because I truly do believe that there are a lot of people that they know that the joint is going to break, and they will break it on purpose so they can post it on Facebook or Instagram and go, look at this cheap ass QC. It's causing a problem. And it's like, no, 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 no. I don't know why so many people have issues just accepting that, hey, heating up figures is part of it's part of collecting. The reason why it became a problem with Valaverse was because he was so vocal about how you shouldn't have to do this, and my figures aren't going to do this, and then every single one of his figures had to do it. That's the only reason why people bang on him about it, because he was so vocal about it.
I missed out on Series 1. The only Series 1 figures I got were 2 Swarm Troopers, which I've already replaced with the SDS figures, and then a Slaughter that I got off the Big Bad Toy Store, like damaged palette, which was literally smashed. Like the box was full. But so I skipped out on all that nonsense. So I wasn't fully aware of heating my figures up or anything like that until I got Serpentor. And then I was like, I need to do something about this, because he was one of the first people with the diaphragm cut instead of the approach.
Serpentor needed to be heated up.
And
I don't think I've moved my
his
Serpentor
chest was looking this way, his abs were looking this way, and that diaper piece he had was just off centered. And I was like, I can't get this thing to stay straight to save my life. And someone told me to heat it up, and I was like, I'll give it a try. They're like, just heat it up, let it sit in that hot water, and then work it, and then work it and work it, and then let it go that way. And then I think it was Baldy said something about the tripwire, where my second tripwire, his bicep cut actually comes off, and he said he told someone else to heat it up and then put it in cold water immediately. Did the exact same thing, worked like a charm. So
yeah, I disagree with Baldy on that, because he told someone that, and I was like, I disagree. So, and this is my thing, if anyone is wondering, and this works really well for the Valaverse early vests and everything. You don't heat up the whole thing. You heat up one side. So you would heat up the side with the holes. You want that mushrooms to still be cold so it can push through. If they're both soft, they won't puncture through. So what I actually said to, like, when Baldy told the guy, hey, heat up the figure and then pop it on, I told him, I'm going to disagree. Heat up just the arm, because that's the part that's the vagina. And then the other one you want to be hard so you can pop it back in. If they're both soft, you're going to have a hard time getting them together. So if you only heat up the one side, unless the one's all kind of messed up and everything, but I'm surprised people don't understand this. And then you always have to correct people on Facebook. It's like, no, do not boil the water, just hot water, hot tap water. That's all you need. Do not boil it, because your figure will get completely fucked.
I think I actually have 2 Valaverse figures that I've stretched the center torso peg out. One was the Night Off Steel Brigade, and now he rattles. And then one of them is the Desert Desert Commando Troop Builders, and he's slightly taller than the other one now because of it.
Yes, so. Random needs to be hard to pop it in. That's how you make babies.
I just keep spitting on them all. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
But yeah, I don't even know what the hell we're talking about anymore. I think now we're just talking about toys and people like it. Well, since I have you on here, what do you think is going to be shown tomorrow?
I think just based off of was it Yak Face saying the Mutton Junkyard Dastardly Pet call sign is in stock. I'm hoping we get that. I would love nothing more than to pre-order something and then have it 2 weeks later. I would love nothing more than that for classified. Just with the whole shipping shenanigans, and I get it. I understand how I understand the map of the world, but I don't understand how Canada gets that stuff weeks before we get it. So,
so here is here's the, come here.
What?
So here's the guy who named you my nemesis.
Huh? Oh yeah.
So
I'm here to ask if you're having internet issues. That's
no.
all. I've been having a lot of internet issues lately, so that's all I was going to ask.
He keeps turning on the Xbox in the background.
PlayStation.
Oh, PlayStation.
Excuse me. Xbox sucks.
Oh, easy.
I don't know when you started talking with such a deep voice till we got on here.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
You're not going to get deeper than Bobby.
What are you talking about? I've always talked like this.
Yeah. How you doing today?
Now you see why I thought I even asked my kids. I had them play. I played your voice. I'm like, how old do you think this guy is? And they're like, I don't know. Your guy's old. He's like in his 60s. And I'm like, this is him. He's like 31.
Yep. Dude, how much testosterone do you have? Jesus.
I don't know. The Army did it to me. I don't know. They gave me a bunch of shots.
All right, I'll make my exit now.
Good.
A what?
I said good.
Yeah, I heard you.
I didn't say it under my breath.
I think Mutton Junkyard definitely. I'm hoping we see the Vamp, but I'm curious to. I mean, I know G.I. Joe got the Shaft during the PulseCon, and I'm hoping that G.I. Joe gets a little more light tomorrow.
I think they're going first.
Okay, well that's even better. So that works for me.
Yeah, I think they are because
the last 10/27, I don't think we saw much. It was like one pre-order. They named teased Chuckles and they showed the big O rings.
Yeah, they teased Chuckles, which should be here tomorrow.
What?
The day of 10/27. I should be getting Chuckles the day of the next 27 after they teased.
That's like people getting Mindbender or Serpentor still, and you're like,
I know. I keep seeing people. I'm like, you don't have that.
But I mean, I get it. They did like the extra ordering and stuff, but this figure, it's from last year's San Diego Comic-Con. That's just
they had to kick those molds back on. Is what they
embarrassing or something like that. I don't know how that stuff works. I don't obviously sell toys or make toys, so.
Well, basically what is this? While Lawrence's son is not scared to criticize. Oh, you have no idea. Listen, him and I have gone back and forth on shit. Like he's got a mouth on him. And he forgets that he's still only like 110 pounds, 105 pounds.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, well, he needs a little bit more than that. I can tell you that much.
That's a start. I was 166 before I joined the Army, and then I jumped up to 194, and then I went through a breakup, and now I'm at 210. So,
yeah, I was like maybe $110 when I graduated. It took time. I hit over 200. Now, some of it was fat, but not as much as people think. Because I had guys at the skate park. Another older guy started messing around with me, and he's a little bit older than me. He's a bigger guy, and he kind of fucked with me. We were kind of like wrestling, and he goes, "Holy shit!" I go, "What?" He goes, "You're solid." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I thought like you were like fat down there." I'm like, "No, dude, this is all. I know it's big, but it's all solid. It's like one big giant fucking ab." I truly have that. And again, I'm not that big, but you know how the bodybuilders that have the protruding ab section.
Yeah,
that's how mine looks. But this is only in their off season.
But yeah, I'd definitely say Mutton Junkyard.
And if the rumors are true that it sounds like they're here, hitting stateside, awesome. That means we should get them really soon.
I'd imagine they're going to punch them out before December, but at the same time, I'm kind of worried that BBTS sent out that email about Shockwave
Shockwave being pushed back.
Shockwave, and then Amazon pushed theirs back too. So
yeah, so Shockwave gets pushed back, but
Amazon pushed back Buzzer also. I think it's
Yeah.
Buzzer, one of the two.
but their buzzer hit, their Helix is here. So how does that hold up for Ripper and Hawk?
Hopefully they all. I would love to, like I said, I would love to pre-order a figure and get them 2 weeks to a month later. I could settle for a month. Where,
Yeah,
like I think it's UK already has Night Force Tunnel Rat, but I don't think they've gotten regular Tunnel
really?
Rat yet. I might be mixing that up. I'm pretty sure it was Leanne Hobbs, the one that does all the crazy photography.
Yeah.
I think she said something about she's gotten Night Force Tunnel Rat before she got standard Tunnel Rat.
Hey, Leanne, did you hear that? See, people like your stuff. You would fit perfectly on here. I'm really trying to get Leanne in on here, but she's still a little skeptical. And I'm like, hey, listen, it'll be a good time.
It's
We need more good females in the community, but I'm like, man, your photography is second to none. She does
the picture of Chuckles blasting the steel core, hilarious.
Yeah, she's so that whole series of Cover Girl. Was it Cover Girl getting murdered, or is she one that does?
Yeah,
Lady Jane getting killed.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I'm like, dude, it's like that is so awesome. But
so
down south, so I will say this. Did everyone get the RSV for Pulse so I can send the link? No.
I'm excited that someone that's not a premium member. So I'm going to sound like a bad guy saying this, but I don't understand how they're going to do this premium event and then send the link to premium emails just for someone to copy the link and send it to somebody who's not premium.
No, they know you can do it.
Yeah,
but they're just basically saying
they just playing it up. Yeah, but there's that hour early window for premium members. If you're not a premium member, I mean, I get it. It's $50, but with the Crimson Strike and Chuckles, I've already made that shipping back basically.
Tripwire. I mean,
yeah.
I know you've gotten from other avenues, but you know, Tripwire, Snow Job, and then Chuckles and the Crimson Strike team.
And then
we're all exclusive. You've made your money back.
Spring cleaning or their holiday deals.
Yeah,
I get that $50 back, or I save that $50 back.
So down south said, you know, I'm thinking they'll say something about the hiss tomorrow. I hope so. I was chatting back with Lenny today, and I'm like, I said I would love to really see the hiss tank in my house already, or something like that, and he didn't respond. So I don't know if we're going to hear anything. They said
I understood it when they did their wrap up, and Emily made the comment saying they recorded a video on a phone, but the file got corrupted. I would imagine that was the hiss unboxing.
Yeah, they talked about how they unboxed the hiss. So
yeah,
I do believe they unboxed it.
I think they did. Well, yeah, but I mean, look at their Sky Striker video that they posted after Sky Strikers already ended up being shipped out. So I'm hoping that's not what happens here. I would love to have my hiss tanks here. You know,
they are saying that we'll have them before the end of the year.
Well, they said fall, so December 21st is what, 10 days before the end of the year. So
I just don't want it showing up. That out. I just don't want it showing up on like Christmas Eve and me being like, "Hey kids, fuck your Christmas. We're opening the hiss tank. We got reviews to do." Matter of fact, you guys are all here, so you guys all get to hold the camera.
Christmas is on break, everybody.
Yeah. So what Big said? Yeah, she said they would have information early to mid-November.
I don't get how you don't have that information though. You should have some kind of projected date to give us instead of just keep saying fall. Fall is 3 months. That's
just because of how everything goes. I mean, all that stuff gets back.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get it. Everything gets delayed and stuff like that, especially nowadays. But
we are. See, I believe because if you look at the PulseCon thing, it tells everyone, and I think that's the order because they have Ghostbusters last. And I believe they're going to be revealing the next Ghostbusters HasLab.
Is there still that big of a Ghostbusters What if they did a firehouse for their Ghostbusters figures? I'm sure that would back.
Well, they did that whole video showing like the guy at the Hasbro headquarters, like the security guard, is all like Ghostbusters. That proton pack did gangbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this would only be their second HasLab. It is weird because they have no Ghostbusters out, but the new Ghostbusters movie is coming out. So
I haven't seen Afterlife yet. Is it any good?
oh, it's really good. I really like Afterlife.
I actually forgot about it until someone was talking about Ghostbusters the other day.
Yeah, I'm not a big Ghostbusters fan. I mean, I like the movie, but I mean, it's not like I have to watch it. But I thought Afterlife was really good. It was way better than the Girl Ghostbusters, which, if you haven't seen it,
I have seen that one, yes.
What a waste of your time. Other than Chris Helmsworth, it was awful. And no, before anyone says anything, it's not because it was girls. It just wasn't good.
That is my favorite argument with anybody that doesn't like Glenda. Like, oh, so you don't like girls? I'm like, I mean, have you seen this figure right now? And everyone's like, oh, we're getting Scarlet. Like, we knew we were getting Scarlet, but I get it. It's Glenda. It's an obscure character. It's new. I'm not saying I'm okay with figures behind paywalls, but when you think about a Joe HasLab at this point, you can kind of imagine those figures are basically already a part of it.
Yeah.
So you know the figures are going to be unlocked. I mean, minus ketchup and mustard, and then you see the Giant Man that funded in the last 3 hours, which I ordered one as a joke last Friday. Didn't think it was going to fund. I was like, oh, if it funds, cool. then no big deal. And then I'm at work and I'm watching the ticker go up, and it's 8,000. I was like, huh. Oh, I bet you FOMO is going to kick in. And me and another guy were going back and forth on Instagram about it. He's like, oh, it might not fund. I think it's going to just miss it. And I'm like, I think it'll barely make it. And the next thing you know, it jumps up to what, 12K or whatever. So
it came, it came 111 away from hitting 14,000.
And I'm trying to think of, so 2021, when was that Galactus, or that was a Sentinel, right?
Was it 2021? God, it's so.
I was in a much different financial situation in 2020 and 2021 than
yeah.
I am now. So I was like picking and choosing my collecting figures and stuff. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna back whatever G.I. Joe has. I think the Sky Striker came out or whatever. And I got my job in where I'm currently at in early 2021. So I'm very thankful for that. And that allows me to buy obnoxious amounts of G.I. Joes and stuff. So every now and then I'll dabble into I don't think I ordered a Rancor, but I remember seeing it. It was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm curious to see what else that comes with it. And then they do the mystery tiers, and you're like, some cardboard, some 3D printed bones. Okay, whatever. And then you're like, wait a second. And then I'm not huge into Star Wars, but I could hold my own in a Star Wars conversation pretty well. And you're like, well, where's the Rancor Keeper? Where's X, Y, and Z? Why are we getting Luke like this when the 40th anniversary is next year, or there's probably going to be a Luke anyways and stuff. And you're just going on and on in your own head. And then you're seeing all these other people with the same thoughts. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one that's like losing my mind over this. And then you get that lightsaber from a no-name character from Obi-Wan. And you're like, why would I?
They hadn't even seen her yet.
Yeah. I was like, why would I buy this?
That came from Disney. That came straight down from Disney saying they had to do that.
And then
that's what I believe.
The Engine of Vengeance. And I'm like, that's cool. But $350, I just paid, $300 for a tank with 4 figures. Why would I pay $350 for a car with fire? And it just didn't make sense to me. And then obviously same thing. Everyone on the internet's like, hey, this doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm not the only one losing my mind right now. And Giant Man, I see it as a $200 figure, whereas I don't exactly see it as a HasLab. So I was like, hey, what the hell? And then, like I said, I didn't think it was going to fund. I saw that they did that little wasp. I was cutting my grass last week when they showed the wasp, and I was like, oh, they added a figure. Cool. This thing's going to back then. I should probably back it. And then I reread the fine print like after I was cutting the grass and was like, oh, they didn't add a figure. It's just showing what could be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what hurt it was they didn't have that wasp. They didn't have a regular sized giant man with it. But
if they would have had that, if they would have had the wasp, I think it would have backed much sooner. But again, I think it was decent. I mean, again, I don't collect the stuff, but again, for $200,
like I said, I just do Captain America comic figures, which are on a pile right there because I got to hang up my shelves. These 2 shelves were just put up. Otherwise, all those Star Wars figures were in some boxes. So, somebody just took a dive behind you.
Snake Eye. Oh no, it was Skeletor that knocked over Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
Makes sense. He's a new operator in Call of Duty, but we can't get a decent G.I. Joe game. But everyone's super excited about that 8-bit G.I. Joe game, though.
You know what?
It's cool. I see the nostalgia for it. But it's not what the brand needs.
You can't. Okay. Wow, we're going to go off. I saw a lot of people super excited for it, right? And that's fine. It looks fun, right? You can't get excited for that and then bitch that they are not making classified figures that are new, that they're making them look just like the original. But then you get so hard over the fact that you created an 8-bit side scroller. Maybe it's not an 8-bit, maybe it's 16-bit, but a side scroller G.I. Joe game based off of everything that we had in the 80s. I mean, talk about going backwards, and you're excited for that, but then you're mad that like Stalker looks like the original. I mean, yeah, everyone bitched and bitched and bitched. So yeah, they gave you exactly what you wanted, and then you bitched about that. All right. Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, I think it looks fun. It looks cool, but that's because I have nostalgia.
Going back to that is how many of these people that are supporting the game are like, "Oh, this game's awesome! This game's awesome." Or like, do they have whatever Nintendo's called now, Switch? Do they have an Xbox? Do they have a PlayStation 5 to play this on?
I don't know how many people play. Because I mean, I don't play video games. I don't have any time for that. That's a really good question.
And I mean, it's cool. You know, it's life to the brand, and obviously, I want to support that. But I just feel like there's different avenues they could be approaching. And I mention it anytime media gets brought up. Like Warner Brothers has all those DC animated cartoons. Some are great, some are ass, whatever. I would love for G.I. Joe to go down that route. Just different story, like just different 1 hour, 10-minute stories following, 3 Joes a year. Could you imagine an hour and 10 minutes of Snake Eyes just cutting up Cobra troops?
So I was on with Jay Bartlett to talk about the state of Star Wars on Saturday. And there's 2 other people, and then we got sidetracked, and G.I. Joe came up. And the DC thing came up, how like they own all their own properties. There's no reason why they should not have, or why they should have had a connected universe from day one. And my thing was, hey, Paramount owns the rights to do G.I. Joe movies and TV. What they really need to do is start with multiple TV shows. They don't have to be G.I. Joe, but be based on G.I. Joe characters that would eventually lead up to a G.I. Joe movie. So you no longer have to explain it. And to me, I'm like, I love to have a TV show about the Dreadnoks. I love to have a TV show about Stalker, Storm Shadow, and Snake Eyes and their unit. But of course, it would have to be updated. It can't be Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
You have extensive enterprises. You can talk about, you could have a show, with extensive enterprises, and you can see Cobra Commander in the background doing stuff where it all leads up to like, all right, here's our backstory and here's the G.I. Joe movie. And again, this is all written in the comics. It's all right there. Like Larry Hama gave you this blueprint to do TV shows and movies. But, the idiot that's in charge there, they can't figure it out because you're not hiring.
Well, they had that their own movie studio or whatever, and then they just sell it for less money than they paid for it or whatever.
That was because the president of Hasbro that died, he wanted a movie studio and no one really wanted it. Or I don't think nobody wanted it, but the guy that took over, he didn't want it. But you're right. Like they had their own studio. Then they kind of realized, oh, it's better just to leave it up to the studio to do it.
And I will never understand why the Snake Eyes Origins movie was what it was when they could have just had what's that actor's name? Not Ray Park. That's the other Snake Eyes, but the dude from Crazy Rich Asians that played Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
They could have had him, and then some guy cast as Stalker, but not name Stalker, and they could have had Tommy, and they could have been special ops in Afghanistan. Boom, helicopter crash. You got your origin. Tommy takes care of him, gets him going. You're good to go.
There's so much. What I think would be great to do is and again, a good director could do this. Is if you made a movie about Stalker, Tommy, and Snake Eyes, but you have Snake Eyes that the whole time he's wearing that hat, and you never see his face. You might see his chin and stuff, but a good director could do that to where like you have a whole movie that you never hear him speak, which is fine because I don't need to hear him speak to know that he had the ability to, but then to see how this happens and how he gets disfigured, and then you're taking it away. A good director could do something like that.
Absolutely, and
you could do it amazingly. So a Netflix MCU G.I. Joe version.
Hey, if Netflix wants to make a G.I. Joe show and target it for that teenage college area age group, they would be rolling in the money. So,
yeah.
We might not like it, but if it's a hit for the teens and the college crowd, then that's a win for G.I. Joe, and that should be a win for us.
So Dustin, yes, in a way, but again, I think that Marvel, when they started doing the TV shows, and I like the TV shows for the most part. I just sit back and I have fun. Matthew has a hard time. He's done stuff in the movie industry, or he's been done stuff for schooling for movies, so he breaks everything down, right? And I sometimes gotta be like, hey, just sit back and watch it, dude. Like, you just gotta sit back. Don't get me wrong, some stuff is crap. Ahsoka. But no, to start, what I'm saying, you start off slow. So when you get into the G.I. Joe movie, you don't have to explain everything. The reason why the Avengers movie worked so well is because you already had an Iron Man movie, a Hulk movie, a Thor movie, and a Captain America movie. You knew their backstories. Like, they were already told.
About the current Spider-Man is there was no backstory. Everyone knows how Spider-Man came about.
Exactly.
We didn't need to be the dead horse.
I remember when you think about how much people hated backstories, the reason why Stan Lee said that he created mutants was because he was like, I was tired of doing backstories. So I was like, how about they just have powers?
Born with it.
Yes, they just have powers. Awesome. Like, no one cares, Some dude blasts optic blast out of his eyes. All right, how's he get them? He was born like that. Oh, okay, cool. Sounds like pretty shitty, like when he woke up, when he comes out and so yeah. Viper Scout says live action movie about a down on his luck used car salesman that gets in over his head with biker gangs, shady big business, and arms dealer. See, now this is what I'm saying. This makes better for a TV show because you can explain more in a TV show. I know what you're talking about. Yes, I know what you're talking about. In a movie, it takes too long to do. Like you have to explain too much. But in a TV show, you can explain, and that's why a lot of people don't like the Star Wars ones, the Marvel ones, is because like you don't explain things properly. You spend all this time, but then you rush, the really important things. So
I don't think we see the Wayne family die in the Batman movie, do we?
What, for this one?
No, I think Dustin's with Robert Pattinson. No, I don't think you do. Not even in the flashback or anything. They mention it a couple times, and it's like a key to the story. But
with the new Batman, they didn't do it.
Yeah,
but that's exactly why when they rebooted Spider-Man, they're like, everyone knows how Ben dies. Everyone knows everything. So there's no reason to show that for a third time. People are already confused and mad, like, you're doing Spider-Man again? And it's like, yes, but so you ignore that. We already know he dies. We know all that stuff. So good,
I I think Cobra Last Laugh, like Eric's saying in the comments, I think that would be a perfect Netflix Paramount Plus show, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's gritty, it's dark. People love that kind of stuff currently. So now would be the time. And then you want to have just an undercover special forces guy infiltrate a terrorist group, which has been probably done 1,000 times. Just like I said before, with Call of Duty being the exact same plot as G.I. Joe. You got your elite team of specialized individuals for the counterterrorism unit going after a selected terrorist group, which would just be Cobra, and you'd be good to go.
What about a Chuckles undercover TV show where he goes by the name Condor?
I think some people would be a little upset.
But then we find out at the end that he really went by the name Airborne.
Throw everyone off. Well, you don't want everyone to get upset because they're looking at these horrible digital renders on a projected green screen behind the people talking about the figure, and then they're screen capping that, blowing it up, and then they're like, he doesn't look like he's whatever the proper term for Indian is currently. How is he supposed to be indigenous people or whatever or not? And I'm like, I saw so many people post that. I'm like, I can't deal with it. It's an action figure. He's not in his roots, blah blah blah, this, blah blah blah, that. He's supposed to be whatever he was. And then people were just going nuts. And then there's other YouTubers that use that as like a whole block for part of their episode. And I'm like, it's a screen grab from a screen grab, basically, and you can't see anything in that thing because it's so pixelated. And then Tony puts up his actual his high res digital render copies, and you can see that he's whatever shade he's supposed to be. And you're like, all these people went ballistic and made all these YouTube videos for nothing because they screen grabbed.
And Chris McLeod actually asked him about that when he had him and Emily on.
Yeah.
He asked him about it, and he explained like, yes, that's gonna look close. You're right. To me, that was, especially, this is a guy that is like, he doesn't have the heritage like Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spirit, with the hair and everything and the clothes that he's wearing, like his is very, it all has to do with, like, you can see it. Where Airborne, he's not like that. It's just his face. And we've seen sometimes faces don't work out properly.
Looking at you, Falcon. Looking at you, Gemini.
Oh, I have not heard anyone mention, I take that back. I have not heard anyone that criticized the Falcon face criticize that Gemini. And that Gemini.
There's a lot of people that are like, oh, I can't wait for Gemini. Oh, I can't wait. I'm like, have you seen? Are we looking at the same figure right now? Did I get like a crazy looking one?
No, you didn't.
No, yeah, I got, yeah. So I'm like I see what they were going for. But then again, I said that with the Falcon. I see what they were going for as I held up the 25th anniversary one. And you're doing all the way from Detroit.
Believe me, I do with these lights here. There's no doubt about it, especially like this side of my face.
Airborne was modern, Spirit was racist.
Airborne was modern, Spirit was racist. No, it's yeah. The uproar on that Airborne, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, it looked pretty good to me.
I mean, I'm trying to think. In the cartoon, he wasn't even that. Like, his skin complexion was just nothing to.
I didn't realize that he was Native American.
Yeah.
Or as I would have called them, when I was younger, an Indian, like Spirit. Just like Tonto was, But hey, you know what? We had Johnny Depp play Tonto for the Lone Ranger.
I forgot about that. Well.
See, as Darth Berkey says, Gemini's face is ass. It is awful. I'm sorry. It is worse than Falcon's because...
I think it's worse than Falcon's because it's like... Falcon's is like just misshapen, where Gemini's face is a horrible face put on like a normal head.
Falcon's face isn't supposed to... Just take my word for this when I tell you Falcon's face isn't supposed to look like that. Gemini's face is supposed to look like that. The other thing that people kind of forget was Tim Kennedy's head sculpt was awful.
I don't even have any Tim Kennedy heads on my figures, and I have
84 of them, like everyone else.
Yeah, I got
When he did the sale and we all bought them.
I got 4 or 5 of them in my display. Yeah, I got 5 of them in my display. Not a single one has a Tim Kennedy head on it.
That's a bad face. And I'm not talking about the screaming one. I'm talking about the one that looks like Falcon's cousin. Because it's fat like Falcon's cousin. Yeah, as Dustin said, I didn't realize he was Native American until I watched Hooded Cobra Commander's review of Airborne.
They might
can't even
on
believe
it in that cartoon. Doesn't his brother get kidnapped or something? And then obviously his last name's what, Taltree, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think they might touch up on it on that episode, but I'm not off the top of my head. Like obviously Spirit was, dressed head to toe. He was that. Unless you're thinking of Billy from Pursuit of Cobra, which I would love a classified figure of that. But
yes, Billy. It's gonna be hard to get Billy. And Falcon does not look like Don Johnson. And he's not supposed to either. I can tell you that. I can tell you that he's not supposed to. All right, so let's wrap it up. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. Let's just see, is there anything else here? Let's see. I'm still waiting for a fat Pacific Islander woman salvo. Yeah, they barely use Airborne in the show. I always knew he was Native American. Robert Taltree, he's one of my favorites because he wasn't a stereotype. I didn't know, but we talked about the whole, we were talking about the whole thing. Like we always thought it was a backpack or it was a parachute. Clearly, was not a parachute. But we all imitated it, like it was a parachute. Like he wasn't a paratrooper, right? Like that's we discussed that. Ed, Matthew, and myself when we did a stream, like we discussed that. Like he wasn't a paratrooper. If Ed is still here, I forget what he was, but he wasn't supposed to jump out of planes. This was on the helicopter.
he's a fast roper, air assault.
Yes. That's why people are like, or when people complain about, the paratroopers coming with the Dragonfly, like, dude, it's G.I. Joe, man. They jumped out of everything.
I thought they were going with the Night Force theme to give them all gas masks, but based off the ones of the Firefly, ones of the Dragonfly and Tunnel Rat, I'm guessing we're not doing that. So
no, but I think it's that is the story that it's somewhat telling. It's somewhat telling that's why most of them do have the gas mask.
Yeah.
So they don't get infected. But I think that is kind of the story. And I really wish that there would be. They don't even need to have file cards that are physical, but have digital ones. Where
I think a problem is that like the only storytelling we get is like when Lenny and Emily are interviewed or when they're doing a panel or a live stream or anything. That's the only storytelling we get.
Yeah.
And, like going back to the chef's hat with the line cook hat with Roadblock from your interview with Lenny. It's like nobody, I mean, unless you piece that together, but even then at the same time, everyone would just dismiss it as a bandana anyways, until you heard it from a source, just like McLeod or MacLeod. If you weren't watching that panel, then what are you going off of? Like,
no, he said that on my show.
What, McLeod? Or yeah, that's what I said.
No. Oh yeah, I never heard him say that before.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like, if you miss all these interviews and all the panels and stuff, you don't know what's going on in the GI Joe classified world. And I mean, I get it. Some people like that there's no media because it lets you tell your own story, which is okay. But for little nods like that, or MacLeod, or McLeod, or even just the Dark Energon and the Zombie Viper and the Mole Rat, like just like the Crimson Strike team, we don't have too much going on. We know that the Crimson Guard or the twins are basically, getting their own Crimson team ready. Could we expect the Cobra Civil War coming up in the storyline? But we don't have a storyline to go off of.
Yeah.
So is that what they're coming up with and like backing why they're creating who they're creating? And that could, that
look, like what Eric's saying right here. Now I need that Roadblock. When he said, my backstory to that Roadblock He's like, and he's like, I know why everyone said that it looks like heavy duty. I've never looked at him like that. It's my idea was he was for 2 months or whatever. He's in Cobra Island. That's why he's got the big beard, and now he has that chef's hat. He just pulled it back, and you're going, you just changed this figure for everyone, but nobody knew that. As much G.I. Joe tubing I watch, never once have I ever heard that story come out.
Yeah, nobody's been like, oh, it's a line cook hat. Everyone's like, oh, he's got a bandana. He's got a bandana. He's got a bandana. And you're like, as soon as you hear line cook hat, you're like, son of a bitch, it's a line cook hat.
And then you understand the big beard because he's been stuck in, and you're like, do you realize that would have changed everything? And now people watch that video and they're like, oh my God, I need it now. And people like during the stream, everyone's like, I'm looking right now. I'm trying to find it online. Like, good luck. Like, you ain't gonna find it. Like, that thing's been long gone for quite some time. But yeah, that just it sucks that they don't have it. And again, you don't need a physical one. You can have that QR code. And the fact of the matter is, most of the file codes are already done.
Yeah,
you might just have to tweak some of them.
Well, I've been going back and looking at the Hasbro Pulse description. I mean, it's obviously like the same on like Walmart, Target and stuff. But if you go in the description, it tells you a little bit about it. Like Buzzer's description and his Hasbro Pulse brief is like, it's a lot of it's pulled from that original file card or his file cards down the line, and you can just see the different pieces put into that little blurb. But it's such a little blurb, and Wolf Spider being a paramedic. Based off his attributes, and I said it in my video, I'm like, this guy's looking like an MP right now. Like, security, first aid, stuff like that. I'm like, is this like, and then you read his thing and he comes from a family of doctors or whatever it is. And you're like, well, that would have been, good to know on the figure itself.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just little things. And I think one of the biggest problems is Hasbro owns G.I. Joe, and this is why it doesn't make sense, is that they don't control the media. Like the comics, the movies are done in a complete, like they don't have anything to do with it. Like right now, they should be basing all those figures after the comics. That's what they really should be doing.
I'm curious to see. So I don't want to follow the comics religiously anymore, but we're going to get a 301, a Duke 1, and a Cobra Commander 1, and a Dark Energon 1. So we're going to have 4 G.I. Joe, with these 3 being separate from the 301.
I don't collect them anymore. So I haven't read a comic in years.
Because I wouldn't mind jumping back into it, but I read a lot of comics when I was overseas, and that's actually where I fell in love with Joe or Cobra Last Laugh. But so I wouldn't mind jumping back into it, but I don't want to jump into 301 because I haven't read since like probably 250, and I'm not against a combined universe, but I'm not exactly jumping into it, if that makes sense. Like I'm cool for like the mole rats and their story and stuff, but if you're going to start bringing in giant robots into my, Optimus Prime and Cobra Commander, and I'm kind of going to be like, all right.
Well, I think 301 is the Real American Hero line, so they can continue that story with Larry Hama. Yeah. And then I know they have other ones where like it's an alternate universe.
Yeah, I think they're doing the Dark Energon shenanigans.
Yeah, I know they license it out, but Lenny has said before, like they can't comment on that stuff, so it's like it's kind of out of their control. But it just makes no sense. Like they should have full autonomy to do what they want when it comes to that line, and be like, "Here's our file cards. Like we're gonna do this." And there's just a lot of different things that I don't know. But anyway, I said I was going to wrap it up 10 minutes ago. This is what happens.
I mean, I can keep going on all kinds of other stuff. You want me to read?
I know.
We had a work meeting today, and they were asking questions about like improvements and stuff, and I had a whole list of stuff. And they're like, "All right, what's next? All right, what's next?" one guy at the end of it's like, "Who hurt you?" I was like,
I love who hurt you.
Too easy to just fix things that need fixed, but.
You're the guy that everyone's going, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we're trying to get out of here. Like, my bad.
And Bobby's going, hey, well, what about this? And what about this? And everyone's going, we're the ones that got to do it, right?
Basically, yeah.
So anyway, before we take off, tell me what you got going on. Promote your show. If people don't know who you are yet.
I'm Bobby B from B's Battlegrounds. I like to look at military figures, predominantly G.I. Joe classified series. Have a lot of fun doing it. Like to bring a little bit of real world knowledge in, but I'm not a complete expert in stuff. So I'll ask for help here and there.
I gotta say this: being a military guy, you do not come off as a know-it-all. You don't come off as like, why would they even make a gun that looks like this? You understand that it's a toy.
Yeah, and
not everything's gonna be perfect.
And that's what it is. And like me and you've talked about before, like G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe. It's not strict real military.
No, they're chasing after guys in blue and red outfits.
Yeah.
Like,
you gotta be bringing a chainsaw to the fight right now. I mean, I don't know what you want from me, right?
I made the comment just a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. I'm like, there's got to be like a team of Navy SEALs that are just sitting back, watching this, going, "This is the best special counter force like that we have. Like, we could have ended this whole terrorist organization in like 2 days."
There's an episode of Robot Chicken where they actually go to Afghanistan. I think it's like forever ago, and all the animals are going nuts and stuff, and then everyone's going.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah. Those are awesome. So anyway, we are going to wrap it up. I know we went almost 3 hours. Matthew's going to say, you got to go 3 hours. Is there anything else that you have coming up other than the race to get Helix?
Maybe another Night Force guy next week. Maybe. Tunnel Rat. So we'll see how trustworthy this source is. But dealing with some people can always be shady on the internet. So if you're going to, just make sure you have some kind of backup plan. So it's easier for everybody.
Listen, I know a lot of people enjoy your reviews. I enjoy them. Again, they're a lot shorter than mine, which is good because I'm like, God bless you people that stick around.
The dedicated 30 here.
What?
The dedicated number. It's been pretty solid for a while now.
Yeah, no, and I think normally I get around. I mean, the Lenny one was, let's be honest, I knew that was going to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that one, and that one was pre-recorded too. That one like held like 60 the whole time. But I'm usually getting about 20 for this. So, like I said, I knew bringing you in here. And a lot of people will watch it later on, which is good because
I do. I catch a lot of live streams the next day when I'm working out. I'll play them while I'm working out. So
yeah, like you said, I mean,
I used to watch Full Force and used to comment. I mean, used to comment back for you. Like, I bet you're at the gym right now. I was like, I actually am right now. So.
Darth says that my reviews are for articulation. Bobby's are for military background.
A lot of orange and blue dudes in the military world doing urban ops.
I like Bobby's. I like to listen to Bobby's reviews for his little quips when he takes shots at people. That always makes me laugh.
Some people got super upset in that one, and they're like, "How can he be? X, Y, and Z. This is what happened. This is why it happened. What is that considered?" I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings. Like they're toys, and you just justified my entire.
When you posted in your YouTube or in your Instagram story, show me where my
$0 production value video hurt you.
I was like, I know I messaged you. I'm like, well, what the hell is that about? But just how you worded my 0 production value. I'm like,
there's some. I'm not gonna say I've made like enemies, but there's people that, like I said earlier, that don't like me because I'm not trying to sugarcoat shit, or I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. But if you're posting something like a video that's straight clickbait, I'm gonna say, hey, this is clickbait, and then you're gonna get all butthurt in my messages about it and call me out, and they're like, oh, I used to be a fan of yours. I'm like, I never said this was you. Obviously, it is you, and it was a screenshot of their title and everything, and the guy's giving me all these excuses, but not once did he deny that it was there for clickbait. And I'm like,
no, I even talked to you about that, and you're like, he never once denied it. So I want to answer this. So here's the whole thing. And this is something people have to understand. First off, none of us are road journalists. We do GI Joe. But the biggest thing about they're not going to do live because Hasbro's not going to allow them. And they want questions vetted. And that's kind of why I don't want to go down that avenue. I don't have a problem interviewing them, but I'm not going to talk to them about like new product and everything. What people want to do is they want to ambush them. I told Lenny when I talked to him, after we were done. I'm like, I think Hasbro does you guys a disservice by not just letting you guys explain the whole Hooded Cobra Commander. We didn't talk about Hooded Cobra Commander. I've done a review on, or not, I've done the videos on it. That's exactly, and that's the truth of it. But people want answers that they cannot. They want them to answer questions, and they want people to ask questions that they cannot answer. And the reason why everyone thinks that these are softball questions is because this is what Hasbro says you can ask. So what happens is like, do you want to get some information out of them, or do you just want to be a dick and be like, oh, you know what, I got you here. Tell me about Hooded Cobra Commander. Why can't we get it? It's just going to make them mad. And then you're not going to get any access to it.
You see Lenny get, or not Lenny, you see Emily get like, not annoyed, I guess would be the most accurate word. When people ask questions that they can't answer to, and she gives that quick,
yes,
we can't comment on super, and she says it because she's annoyed because it's like, that they can't ask that. They know they can't ask that question.
But and that's what bothers them, I think the most, is because they can't answer the question, even if they wanted to. But everyone wants the questions answered. They don't want to believe the whole Hooded Cobra Commander. And I know that's the biggest question that they have. And believe me, they should. Matthew sent me a message, and he did say something about how, Dan and the other Marvel Legends guy, they do live streams. I don't know why they won't do live streams.
I've seen Ryan Ting in the comments section of other live streams.
Yes. So they can.
Which one got really upset at Comic-Con? Was it Chartemis was interviewing them, and they're like, you can't ask that question, or he said then he reworded it. He's like, he basically said, damn well what you're doing, with like how he was trying to get the information.
Yeah, I feel which one. I know what you're talking about. So the thing is, I think they may have leeway because they're also under the umbrella of Marvel. So they have some leeway. The reason why we did it pre-recorded was just because he knew we were going to tackle some things with Hasbro, and we really didn't get into it. But yeah, and again, I could probably ask him for an interview and get one because he trusts me, I do believe, because I wasn't malicious in anything that I did during the interview.
But you only have X amount of subscribers. Why would he interview with you?
Well, maybe he messaged me back and he told me, when you get 13,000, then get back with me. I made a mistake doing something with you. Believe me, and Bastion, and one of the reasons why I wouldn't want to do some of those is because the questions that you can ask are questions that have already been answered, and you're not going to get anything new. I think there's other things that we could talk about. I actually messaged him earlier today, and I said, hey, I just want you to think about this. And I don't know what you guys think, but this is because that was something I would enjoy. I said, I would love to maybe to next year to get you on and talk about the whole process of creating a figure. I don't want to talk. I don't want to discuss like the future figures you have, but like what goes into it, what makes you like decide like what weapons or how much loadout they can have.
Yep.
How much
start to finish, agent faces, name on paper, go. And then
how much do you take from the original figures or the 25th anniversary figures? How much do you look forward? And then when it gets put down, how long does it take a figure to actually get done? But yeah, I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. I really do. Well, You meant interview outside of business. Did you not watch
Isn't
my
that what
Lenny
you did?
interview? Like that's what that's what my last interview was all about. Like we ended up talking a little bit about Hasbro, but we talked for you learned about him working in a graveyard and being in a band and his childhood and everything like that.
We didn't talk about all my jobs.
No. How many jobs do you have?
A handful. Everything from a telemarketer to a bouncer.
A telemarketer. We're done with this here.
I was 16. I didn't know
I
anything.
don't care. You're probably still someone's still probably calling me about my warranty. I still get warranties on my 2008 Dodge Avenger that my daughter has. That has 280,000 miles on it. I'm like, listen, it doesn't fit your mileage. All right. I did. Okay. So I asked him something about, because I brought up the McLeod thing. I talked to him about that.
MacLeod.
I talked to him about that backstage because it is an homage to Chris McLeod. But I'm like, hey, I don't need a figure, but I would love maybe if you get a pit bull in there and you just want to call it Roman.
No. Night Adder's dog. Night Adder's dog is going to be Battle Dog B, which is also Big Dick B, and it's going to be on homage to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even like trying to be mean, but like that's what that whole last interview was. It was like to not talk about it. And that's why he was so receptive about doing it. And that's why he liked it. I had actually sent him over the videos. The first one that I had sent him was the one I did with PNC because I thought that was a really good one. It was interesting. It broke away from the toy talk about his video games and everything. And he's like, this seems really chill. And that's why he was really, really, happy to do it. And it's done absolutely wonderful. I mean, I knew it would because of who he is, and I assume that, yeah, it would do good. People continue to watch it. I think people like it. And very few people have really gotten on me, but there were a few people that like, why didn't you ask about Hooded Cobra Commander? Really, like, I'd rather have a Billy figure than a Hooded Cobra Commander.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on what. If they want, like,
I think just because I hate Hooded Cobra
or just
Commander.
put them on a Storm Shadow body. I think it would depend. A Billy figure would be fun though.
Again, I'm not going to ask questions like that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And it was ice cream they were talking about. Okay, so I gave you guys 3 hours. Bobby gave you guys 3 hours. And in Bobby's world, that is like over 24 or
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's like 20 different reviews. For me, that's like 3 reviews. Yeah, dude, I asked about Billy, even to Lenny, and he's like, that's kind of a boring figure. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, what, do you have a patch on his eye? I'm like, oh, man.
Well, they could probably put him on a Storm Shadow body, or if they'd go back to the figure subscription service, the green pants with the black shirt. But I mean, it's not an exciting figure, unless they play. Doesn't he lose a leg in a car accident or a car bombing?
I don't remember.
Or something. They could probably play up that a little bit, give him like a robot leg or something.
You can do. I mean, we just need a Billy figure. He's very integral in the comic. And maybe he could come with a hood for Cobra Commander. And you know what? Even if we got a hooded Cobra Commander, I'd rather be a Mezco hooded Cobra Commander because it would be real.
I love my Mezco Destro, and I'm really hoping Roadblock drops next month. So
yeah, I do because I paid for him over 2 years ago.
I need to buy mine on the secondary market, but
that's right.
Yeah, it was the only one I skipped because I remember seeing it when it came out. I was working at that sporting goods company, that corporate office, and I remember we had a back office, and I just always look up G.I. Joe shit on the back office computer. And I remember when that dropped.
So you like to hear the knowledge in the industry and other companies too. Well, he's not going to talk about other
This was directed towards me in the sporting goods industry.
Oh. Damn Dick Sporting Goods. He won't badmouth. I mean, I don't know if that's what you mean. There's just a lot of stuff. Here's another thing that people don't understand. Yeah, 3 hours and 5 minutes. We're gonna wrap up after this. I promise you. The thing is, you also have to remember when it comes to Hasbro, that's their livelihood. And a lot of people don't realize that. And then they step out of line. Like, those people don't want to lose that job. They don't want to go work for Boss Fight Studios. I mean, nothing against Boss Fight Studios, but you don't want to go work there rather than Hasbro. Even though Hasbro will eventually fire you. I mean, no one retires from Hasbro is exactly what they say. But I do understand what you're saying, Bastion. Like, I really do. And believe me, there's 100 things I wish that I could ask and get answers for, but that's just how it goes in this. And I'm not a real journalist. I'm not gonna act like I am. I just ask questions. So, all right, let's wrap it up. Tell everyone where they can find you.
On Instagram at Bees Battlegrounds, and then on YouTube at Bees Battlegrounds. And then if you see me on Facebook, at just Bobby B. Just try to be nice to me because some people are pretty mean on Facebook. So
you do a wonderful job. Anyway, we're out of here. I will see everyone this Monday for Monday Night Toy Ramblings. Have a wonderful night, and thank you guys all for watching.